welcome to this video. This is your ultimate guide to mastering money and investing, designed specifically for smart women who, like you, are ready to take control of their finances. So whether you're struggling with money stress, maybe lack of confidence, or worse, you feel like your finances are controlling you rather than the other way around, then this program will change everything. In the next couple of hours, I'm going to help you feel more confident, more motivated, better equipped with the knowledge and the tools to create dramatic, positive changes in your financial life. So why is this so important? Well, let's get real. One day, life might throw you a curveball. Maybe you'll lose your job. Maybe you'll start a family. You could have a relationship breakup, or even just be denied that pay rise you wanted. And if you're not financially prepared, those dramatic life effects can actually be devastating. Now, let's be honest, women already face real disadvantages. We earn less, we save less, we invest less. We're more likely to be financially impacted by life changes like children and divorce. And shockingly, our pensions are worth almost 30% lower than a man's. Now, this course isn't about complaining, it's about solutions. It's my mission to empower you to make every penny you earn work harder for you. So this is what you're going to learn over the next couple of hours. The shocking truths about women, money, and the wealth gap so that you know what's at stake. I'm going to share with you a mini quiz so that you can understand where your head is around money and the current mindset, how it's affecting your financial habits. And powerful strategies, of course, to help you manage your money confidently, building savings, starting investing, and all without the complicated jargon and no sales pitch. This isn't just another video designed to get you into some marketing funnel. It's your ultimate roadmap to financial freedom. And what I want you to do now is bookmark it, grab a notebook and commit, because this is going to truly change your life. If you have YouTube Premium, you're going to be able to save and download this video so you can come back to it again and again. And I'm going to promise you, you're going to want to do that because the insights you're going to gain just on the first sweep through is going to already change your life. And you come back and watch it a second time, those insights will be amplified. So let me just give you some facts and figures about why women must take control of their finances. I mentioned we're paid less, work less, and earn less. What do I mean by that? On average, women work 360 fewer paid hours a year than a man. That equates to £6,000 a year if the wages were equal. And don't think by getting a pay rise, things are going to get better. Did you know that female in the FTSE 100 as board members still earn, I can't believe I'm even going to say this number to you, 69% less than their male peer board members. I'm going to repeat that for you. Female board members of FTSE 100 companies earn on average 69% less than their male board members. It's disgusting. It's shocking, right? They're doing the same job. That equates to having smaller pensions because by the age of 55, the average man's pension is 42% larger than a woman's. So a woman will have a pension of around £66,000, £67,000, but a man will have in excess of 114,000. And of course, breakups after a relationship ends, a woman's household income will drop, and a woman's household income drops 41% compared with the man whose income drops by 20% as he pays his contribution to the family that is left. Now, we can talk about how this is unfair. We can talk about whether this is avoidable. But actually, with the right mindset, the right habits, and the right strategies, you can build the financial security you deserve. So while we go about changing the world, you're already going to be strong and financially secure. I just want to do a little bit about my backstory so you'll understand why I'm talking to you about this. So I've gone from literally rock bottom to financial freedom. I've spent years teaching and empowering women to take charge of their money. So what about my journey? Well, I became bankrupt and homeless and mum to two children while going through a very abusive marriage. And I've ended up, as you can see from the banner, one of the UK's top 25 most influential people in property, according to the Telegraph. I've written books, I run a successful business. And when I fled my marriage, I had £2,000 worth of debt and a black bin bag full of clothes because I made out that I was just going to go and visit my parents for the weekend and never came back again. No home, no savings, and no idea to start over. Fast forward to today, and I'm happily remarried, financially free, and I retired from proper work way back when I was 48. I know, only yesterday. And having built a property portfolio and a successful business, I've been able to secure my family's future. It took me years to figure it out. I made mistakes, but I don't want you to have to wait that long. I'm going to share everything with you that I have learned so that you can make those changes now, so that you don't ever have to struggle to control your finances or be in a vulnerable position. So, my goal for you isn't just about money. It's about freedom. It's about security. It's about confidence. And why? Because you lead your family. And if you're a single woman, you are out there on your own. You need to feel secure and confident in your finances. We need to understand as women that money is just a tool, not a source of stress. We need to understand how to build wealth for ourselves and future generations. We need to feel empowered to make bold and informed decisions about our financial future. I firmly believe in the power of women to change their lives when they have the right knowledge and when they have the confidence, and we can do that together through this video. So if you're ready to begin, then you're ready to transform your financial future, please do grab a pen, find something to take notes in, and commit to this process. Watch this video through to the end. And remember, to save this video and download it, you need to have YouTube Premium. And what I'd also like to ask is that you please share this video with other women in your life, your friends, your sisters, your daughters, and your male partners, because everyone benefits when women thrive financially. So let's start this journey together towards a stress-free, empowered, and wealthy life. Because it matters. That's what's important here. Let me ask you a question. When was the last time you really looked at your finances? Not just your bank balance, but truly understood by looking at your statements where your money is going and by checking any savings that you have and working out how they are working for you. Now, if your answer is, I don't really know, you're not alone. Many of us were never taught how to take control of our finances. And as a result, we've just been drifting through life, hoping that things will work out well. But hope isn't a strategy, only awareness is. And in this section, we're going to get clear about why financial awareness is so crucial to you and how your mindset plays a role in this, the challenges you need to overcome, and more importantly, where you stand right now. Because if you don't know where you are, how will you ever get to where you want to be? So there's a real power to financial awareness. And what I want to do is just signpost what we're going to discuss in this section. I think it's really important for you to understand what's coming so that you can then start to listen out for the bits that are really key for you. So, why is financial awareness the foundation of financial empowerment and confidence? That's something that you really need to understand, because if you don't understand that, then none of the rest of this video course is going to make any sense or have any connection to you. And there's a real cost to financial disengagement and how not paying attention to your money is costing you. And if you don't learn that lesson now, you can do all the things that you're meant to do, save, invest, but at the end of it, your money will not be worth what you expected it to be worth. And then I'm going to pepper this with some stories of real women who've transformed their finances by becoming more aware and taking action. So let's talk about what happens if you're not financially aware. Maybe you earn a decent income and somehow at the end of the month, you're not really sure where it's all gone. Maybe you're a woman who's already laid it all out and you've got all the systems in place and you know where all your money's gone, but do you know how your money is performing? I've spoken to tens of thousands of women over my life about money. And one of the things that I know is that very, very, very few of us are actually getting it all right. Even I don't get it all perfect all the time, but I'm aware of what I need to be doing so I can look for the exceptions and streamline the process. And that's what I want it to be for you. If you're avoiding actually looking at your bank statements because they stress you out, then you very much need to pay attention, because there's no point hoping that one day you'll magically have enough for retirement, okay? You need to take action. Financial disengagement at whatever level, either fully disengaged or partially disengaged, is costing you. And we already know that women retire at 65, 66, 67 with 35% less wealth than men. And it's not because we don't work hard, we do. It's because of our financial habits. It's underpinned by gender pay gap, and because we often wait far too long to take control. So, whatever age you are right now is the perfect time for you to start doing something about your money. Let me just tell you a quick story about Annabelle. She was in her late 30s when her marriage ended, leaving her with 4 children under the age of 8. She had little or no savings, and she worked just at the NHS as a nurse, but no clear financial plan because she was never taught. She knew that she needed to take action. And one day she took one of my courses and started working on her mindset and tracking her money and doing all the exercises that I set out for her. She made small changes, and basically within a year, she came back to me ready to start investing, right 12 months after she started taking the course. Now, 5 years later, she owns 3 rental properties. She's moved from a 3 bedroom flat in central London with her children out to a 4 bedroom property. She's got a much better quality of life. She's got an additional income from her properties that not only are producing an interest rate that beats inflation, but means that she's not reliant just on her job. She's been able to change her working hours from 5 days a week down to 3 days a week. And how? It's not really about getting the money together. It's the fact that she started to work on her mindset. She started to pay attention to her money. She started to track her spending and made those small changes that meant that she was able to see her position differently. It's a phenomenal story, and I wish she could meet her. So, are you ready to just stop hoping and actually start knowing where you are? I think one of the first things we want to do here is really explore your money mindset. And what do I mean about that? If I talk about the word mindset, I really mean our thoughts. What are your thoughts about money? And where did those thoughts come from? Are they truly your thoughts, or are they actually thoughts that you've acquired? Now, a lot of our thoughts were shaped during our early childhood. So they come from our parents, they come from school, they come from society, and of course, more often, they come from Instagram and Reels and Facebook, and heaven help you if they come from TikTok. And so, what I want to do now is actually get you to explore your beliefs about money and how they were shaped, and look at that impact of your childhood and society on your financial confidence. Because if all you're doing is looking at Instagram now and seeing all of these people with their flashy cars and their flashy clothes, that has to be affecting your confidence. But we know that's not real, don't we? So, money isn't just about the numbers. Sure, it's about the numbers and tracking the numbers. But if you don't appreciate your beliefs and, in a sense, make them conscious and know that you've absorbed different thoughts through your lives, and some of those are helpful now and some of those aren't helpful now, then that can cloud even your ability to get out that bank statement and check it. So let's think about money when you were younger. Was money a source of stress in your household? Do you remember your mum and dad talking about money? Did you maybe grow up in a single parent household? Was money in short supply? I remember speaking to one woman, and she said that at one point in their lives, they had lots of money, and as children, they could have whatever present they wanted. And then the father changed jobs, and all of a sudden, all this financial abundance just vanished overnight. And as a child, she didn't really understand. She just knew that she was getting less Christmas presents. And what that told her is that you can have a lot of money, but you can lose a lot of money. And so what that means is that she's now scared that she could lose money. And that's a really interesting belief to hold, that if you have money now, it could all be taken away from you. And that's not helpful, actually. So what about, what were you taught about money? Were you taught that talking about money was rude? I mean, that's so funny and so, I suppose, historically biased. The fact that it's rude to talk about money. I think it can be a very British trait, but it's also very much class focused. It's about, if you are wealthy, you don't talk about money because it's something that the people beneath you do. But if you are actually poor and you don't have a lot of money, you wouldn't talk about it because you wouldn't want people to know. During my research, and I know from watching a lot of historical dramas, that there was a point in our lives where women, if they asked their husbands about money, not was it just rude, but it was considered some form of madness and could have got you sent to an asylum, drugged, and put away in a building where you didn't bother your husband with the uncomfortable questions around, how are we doing financially? What money have we got? It was not something that women were allowed to talk about. And I think that that has filtered through into this concept of money being rude, impolite to speak about money. So, what about this one? Money doesn't grow on trees, or rich people are greedy, or money won't make you happy. So it's true, money definitely doesn't grow on trees. And I don't think it's true to say that rich people are greedy. I think that if you come from a place of lack, you might take the way that they behave with money as looking greedy, but actually it could be money management. It is true in a way that money doesn't make you happy, because too much money can be stressful, not enough money can be stressful. There are plenty of things that you can do in life that don't require any money at all. But one thing I will tell you, not having enough money when something happens to you in your life, whether it's retirement, whether it's a bereavement, whether it's a loss of job, whether it's a growing family, that will very definitely make you unhappy. And that's not something any of us want. The point is that all of these experiences that you've had in your childhood will shape your money mindset, shape the way that you think about money. If you believe that money is scarce or hard to manage or hard to acquire, you may avoid dealing with it. But if you saw money as a tool for freedom, you might actually start to take charge of it. And that's what I want you to do. Out of this whole video, if I can get you to the point where you understand that money is just a tool that if you take charge of it and make it work for you, it can give you financial freedom. So now, I've got an activity for you, but it really depends on whether you're driving or walking when you're listening. If you're sitting somewhere safe, then you can do this activity in the full way. If not, come back and when you watch this video for a second time, you could do the exercise then. So if you're safe, just close your eyes for a moment and reflect on your values. What do you think about money? Do you even think about money? What do you think about financial freedom, financial security? Do you even think about that? And one of the things that we're going to do is really dig into your values, what's important to you, and list them. And I can tell you from my practical experience of working with women, very few women, I would say maybe only 10 or 20% of women actually have a value that is associated with money in some way. So whether they're looking for security, and what they mean by security is also financial security, because it might be about the home, which takes money. It might be that they look for freedom, and freedom means that they're going to need to have money, not be tied to a job. So there might be words in there that are associated with money or finances or something like that. But nearly 80% of the women that I have spoken to on a one-to-one basis do not have a word that even means money, wealth, financial security, or anything. And I think it's really because we are brought up and conditioned to be the nurturer rather than the provider. Think about the toys you were given as a child. Think about the toys you might have given to children, girl children in your family. They're dolls, they're prams, they're kitchens to play with. But they're not necessarily job style roles. So they're not given science sets to go out and play with, or Meccano or Lego sets, so that they're sort of doing practical things that could then be little mini jobs. They don't get to practice being policemen or cowboys or spacemen, right? Little girls are taught to play with dolls and prams and kitchens. And this feeds into this idea of the nurturer role rather than the provider role, the provider of finances. And I'm going to give you in the playbook at the end of each chapter some of my podcast links so that you'll be able to go there and pick up on these terms. So provider and nurturer are the first two podcasts that I ever recorded, and I'll put those links in the playbook for you. The key thing out of this is it's awareness that can help you shift this mindset. So let's move on. So you're aware now that you have values, that through society and your childhood, you will have certain thoughts in your head, but these thoughts might not necessarily be helpful. Now, I'm not going to fix that instantly, but we are going to be working on that. Let's move on for a minute and just look at the financial challenges, because I want you to understand the environment that you're working in and make that the imperative for you to then also want to go and look at how your mind is working. So you see how I'm building things together, the challenges that you face, the mindset that you're working with, and bring all of this together so that it is a powerful motivator for you to want to take action. Because at the end of this, while I've produced this video and an 80-page workbook for you to go through, I can write books, I can record podcasts, but if you don't take action, nothing is going to change. And the only way I can make you take action is for you to see that it is important to you. that there is a positive in you doing this, and there is very definitely a negative if you don't do this. So that's what we're going to look at now, the negative side of it, the challenges that you face. I've already talked about the gender pay gap and the investment gap, and we're going to look at what that means to you. We're going to look at that cost of waiting, as I've said, and we're also going to look at how smart women can just take control regardless of the challenges you face. Any step towards taking control of your money is a positive one, whether that means making a difference to £10 or £50 or £100 or £500. It's all a step in the right direction. We know that women face different challenges to men. Men do face their challenges, but women's are very definitely different. The gender pay gap is going to mean that we'll earn less, A, for the same amount of work, but also for a shorter period. And this is going to have an impact on how we invest and how we create and build our pensions. And if you're not investing now, because you're saving instead, and you're saving in a way that you aren't conscious of the impact of the savings that you have, it could be that your money isn't growing. And of course, there are still career breaks in our lives, right from the beginning, in the middle to the end. Those responsibilities, those family responsibilities, while we want to do them, most of us want to do them, it can still set you back financially. Now, this isn't about blaming the system. It's very definitely not about blaming men. I'd love it, as I've said to you before, if you share this with the men in your life, your brothers, your fathers, your partners, because it's about learning how to play the game and win. And that's about bringing people on side, people who care about us and want us to do well, and bring them together to support us and become our cheering community so that we can apply the strategies, understand our mindset, and make the difference. Know your worth and negotiate your salary. To do that, you've got to have the backing of your colleagues. Look what happened in Hollywood when they started talking about salaries, and how many male actors probably just didn't even think to ask the question, what do their female co-stars earn? But there was a real shift once they became aware of that. And of course, what we've got to look at is the difference between investing and saving, and how even investing small amounts can make a big difference to your money. What we want to do is make your money work for you rather than you just working for money, because that's a time trading thing that you will never get out of. So I have put in the playbook a quiz, if you like, for you. It's called the Smart Woman's Problem Solving Playbook. And it's going to help you reflect on how you respond to financial challenges and how you overcome them. You might notice that there are certain phrases that you use that you can start to go, yeah, that's me. That's the way I speak. That's the way I think. And start to make this more conscious. And this becoming conscious about our money, about our financial thoughts, about our spending is really pivotal. And that's what I just want to move on to. I've talked about how you can use your phones now, and you can just tap them on any old device, and off the money goes from this thing here to that thing there, and you don't even notice. And sometimes you're so busy tapping, maybe you're chatting to a friend, or you're rushing during lunch, or rushing to get somewhere, that you've put your phone to a device that is going to take money from it, and you've not even looked at how much money that was. I was speaking with someone the other day, and she admitted that she frequently goes out to lunch, taps with the phone, and in tapping with the phone is completely unaware of whether she's paid for her dinner, somebody else's. She could have been overpaid by, tenfold. And then by not checking the statements, you just don't know if there's a mistake, and there's no receipts. Some companies will send you an email receipt if you're lucky. But on the whole, this is a tap, very unconscious spending approach. Tap, tap, tap. And that is very much what the marketeers want you to do, to remove that friction between thinking that you want to buy something and paying for it. Because as frictionless as they can make that space in the middle, the quicker they can get your money. In the old days, if what you had to do is, right, I'm going to buy this thing and then open your wallet, take out pound notes and count them out, you might then go, oh, do you know what? I haven't got a lot of money in my wallet. I'm going to put that thing back. Do you remember those clips from back in the day? Depends on how old you are, being at the supermarket and getting to the end and not having the actual pound notes to pay for something and then having to put a few bits back. I experienced that when I was first on my own because I had tangible money. It wasn't just tap, tap, tap. And of course, if you're not tapping with your phone, you're tapping with a credit card. And again, if we're not getting the printouts and saving those against our statements, it's all completely unconscious. Now, they do say, and there's so many of these sayings, but money flows where attention goes. And if you're not paying attention to it, it could be flowing right out of your bank account. So let me just have a chat about unconscious spending. These will be things like subscriptions, things that you signed up for that just take money by direct debit out of your bank account. And because you're not checking it, you're not even aware of it. And of course, the classic is we all sign up for the gym in January and then nobody goes to the gym. Did you cancel your gym membership if you're not going? What about a magazine? What about an online newspaper? It could be all sorts of things. I found that I had signed up to some online yoga exercises. You guessed it, I never did one of them. But then, because I do check my statements, I noticed that they invoiced me again. And they were a bit sneaky and they wouldn't give me a refund. And I had to cancel it and I didn't get my money back. So you have to watch. You have to watch what you're signing up for, really, where your subscriptions are. Check your statements. And of course, the other sort of unconscious spending is impulse buys, where you went out and you weren't planning to buy yourself a new pair of shoes, a dress, or you weren't planning to buy, let's say, a new electric toothbrush, because now when you go to the supermarkets, you can literally buy everything in a supermarket. You went out for food and came back with a 70 or £100 toothbrush, but it was on sale because it should have been £200. And those end of the aisles where they putting up their sale office. And have you noticed that a sale has a red banner to catch your attention? It's often in bigger words. So impulse buys. The newest thing when you go into supermarkets is the idea that as a club card member, so for example, in the supermarket, Tesco's, they have a club card and Sainsbury's have their own nectar points. Now what they're doing is instead of sending you out rather wasteful paper little coupons that you could take in because people, I think, forgot them, they're actually putting these signs up on the shelves as you walk past. So you could be going out with your shopping list. Maybe you do it digitally and then you'll miss all of this anyway. But if you're still a trolley pusher when you go around the supermarket, you're going around the supermarket, maybe you made a list, maybe you didn't, but all of a sudden you're going to go past one of these signs and they'll be red or they'll be purple or whatever they'll be. And they'll be saying to you, look, here's a bargain. You were going to pay £5 for this, but today you can get it for £3.50. And it's a bit like those other offers. You know, if you buy two, you get one free, bog offs, or buy one, get one half price. If you don't do the maths and you're not conscious of this, you could be picking these things up. There's food waste when you buy three of something when you only really wanted one. Plus, if you're not clearing your credit cards, the impact there. But all of these impulse buys are separating you from your money. And if it's not something you need. Now, I said right at the beginning, this isn't about restriction. It's about making things conscious. Whenever I see these offers, out comes the phone, I'm doing the calculating, I'm looking at the little number, and they're very clever. If you don't understand, it's just another approach to separating you from your money. These impulse buys could be costing you. They're not really bargains. And then, of course, the unconsciousness of the tapping the card. It's these financial leaks that will be making it much harder for you to save and ultimately invest. So, making conscious your spending is absolutely crucial. So, what will conscious spending look like? So, checking in before you buy, and there'll be an exercise for you in the workbook about this later. Do I actually need this? Now, there are plenty of times in our lives where we go, do I actually need this? And need it? No. Want it? Probably yes. But just that questioning moment of, do we need it? When you're going around the supermarket and you haven't made the list, do you really need the coffee that's on offer, or have you got enough coffee at home? Taking that moment to pause, to think, and then maybe not making that purchase. And what about planning ahead? That's another way to be very conscious. So, what I want to do is go out for a meal at the end of the month for our anniversary so I can start to plan that I have that money so that we can go out for a meal. How much money do I need? Let's just say 100 because it's a round number. Do I have that money already within my financial budget? Or am I going to have to save that money from somewhere? Cut £25 a week so that I can go out for a meal for an anniversary at the end of the month. And what we're definitely going to be doing as part of this video series is getting to the point where we are automating savings first, and then spending comes with what's left, and it'll be guilt-free. I'm going to show you the Lioness process where you can allocate your money, set up automations, and at the end of it, all that is left in your current account is what you can spend on treats for yourself. Everything else has been moved out into appropriate pots, but I'm cheating, I'm jumping ahead, and I'll tell you more about that later. What I want you to do now is plan to track your spending for the next 30 days without judgment, to just observe them, to highlight any, this is a bit rude, but mindless, unconscious purchase that you made. And then let's start to think about whether you want to continue making those purchases or whether that money could be redirected to your savings. Now, there'll be several versions of this in the workbook. There'll be the nice, easy word version, so you can just fill it in, thinking about it rather than spreadsheets. And then there is going to be an Excel spreadsheet. It's okay. You will be fine. It is so easy to fill in, and I will explain it all later. I want you to understand your starting point, to really get a financial snapshot of where you're at, a financial reality check, if you like. And that's going to be so powerful because knowledge is power. Knowing your income, knowing your expenses, making clear and conscious what debts you've got, looking at your savings, it's going to allow you to make informed decisions like never before. So there's an activity in the workbook called Where Does My Money Go? And this will be a just from memory, thinking about it. It's just your starting point. And then what we'll do is go deeper and look at where your assumptions are maybe not as accurate as you thought. And then what I want to do is take you into mindset again, because money isn't just about paying bills, as I said. It's really about what money can facilitate, what money allows you to do. What are your dreams? What do you really want? What sort of wealthy life do you want? I talk a lot about a wealthy life. That's the orange book that you can see over my shoulder. A wealthy life being one that is full of what you want. And I think that mostly what we think we want stuff, but we really want memories. We want joy. We want happiness. We don't want stress. We want to be able to have fun. I think that's what we are. We are fun-loving people, fun-loving humans. And so I've got an exercise for you called the 5 whys. And what I want to do here is really dig into why financial security matters to you. In a sense, why are you watching this video? What are your deepest motivations? And so the goal is to start with a question. And then from that question to ask why, write an answer. Ask why, write an answer. Ask why, write an answer. So that you have asked that question 5 times. So if I give you an example, I want to save £10,000. Why? Well, because I want to have an emergency fund, because I watched Vicky's video and I know all about that. You don't, but I will explain it to you soon. Why do you want an emergency fund? Well, question number 2. So I don't have to worry about unexpected expenses. Question number 3. Why? Because when I'm hit with unexpected expenses or I don't feel that I have enough money in the bank account, it makes me feel stressed and that affects my happiness and my confidence. Question number 4. Why? Why does financial stress? Well, because at the end of it, what I really want is to feel secure and in control of my life. And then 5, why do you want to feel secure and in control of your life? Because I want to be happy, because I want to know that I can live the life that I want to live, a wealthy life on my terms. So, can you see how you're breaking that down? It's laid out for you in the playbook. You can work through this. And I think what I really would like you to do is to come up with several goals, several thoughts around money. Even no, don't even make them goals necessarily, like I want to save £10,000. How about a question that says, I want to move house, or I want to have a holiday, or I want to set up savings, or maybe I don't want to, which is also a very interesting way to take this exercise. I don't want to feel like this about money. I don't want to be in debt. So you can play the game all the ways that you like. And if you take this in the workbook, you might want to write this out into a notebook to the side. Start thinking of things now and make a note of them maybe on your phone. And then when you get to the exercise and a thought has come into your head about how you feel about money, I don't want to feel like money is scarce. I don't want to feel like I would be greedy if I want to have a wealthy life. So you can really start to play with the thoughts that come in. And this isn't going to be a one-time exercise. You're going to be able to do this exercise for the rest of your life. When something pops into your head around money, you can ask those questions. And as you keep saying to yourself, why, till you get down to 5, you start to get to the deeper reasoning of this. So if you think about that, I want to save £10,000, and the answer is because I want to live a wealthy life. We might be talking about saving money, but what we're actually talking about is a plan to live life on your terms, the way that you want to. Now, that's powerful. If you then take that back up and go, so that's why I want to save the money. I want to save the money because I know that in saving a certain amount of money, or investing a certain money, or getting myself out of debt, or moving house, or whatever, is going to contribute to my overall happiness and well-being. That's a powerful driver. And that's going to help you when I go back up to the other exercise and I remind you that what I want you to do is financial reality checks. What I want you to do is be more conscious about your spending. If you've got this 5 whys exercise there, then that is going to be your motivator. So when I'm not there, when you've got to the end of this video and you press pause and save, remember, and you press save because you're going to come back to it, in those gaps when I'm not there, this 5 whys exercise will be in your head, you'll be listening to this voice, my voice saying to you, why, and that will keep you going. And what I want to do here is simply lay the foundations so that you are ready to take massive action over the next, we've still got 6 chapters to go, that you're going to understand why financial awareness is so important. You're going to have uncovered your money mindset and you're going to know where you're starting from. You're going to understand all of those little voices about money being bad and rich people being greedy and money not growing on trees and go, thank you very much. That's what grandma used to say. That's what my mum used to say. That's what my dad thought. I know better because I am an educated, smart woman in control of her finances. Why? Because I want to live a wealthy life on my terms. So we're going to start digging into the E of Be Smart in a minute. And that's about establishing clear goals because financial success and financial security doesn't happen by accident. It happens by design. And what I'd like you to just do now as we move to the next section is think to yourself, what is one takeaway that I've had from this exercise? Press pause on the video for a minute and please share it in your comments on the side. So you've already introduced yourself. You've already said that you are committed to this course. Now, what is your one key takeaway from this first section? Make a note, and I'm going to see you in a minute. I don't know why you're here, but I'm going to carry on the assumption that you've clicked the link because you want to learn more about money. And why do you want to learn more about money? Because you want to improve your life. And I use that term, create your wealthy life, create your wealthy future. And the thing is that no matter what I tell you, you're never going to achieve it unless you establish clear goals. And that's the E of Be Smart. Because you can't hit a target that you don't put up, that you don't set. And so what we're going to be doing in this section specifically is looking at that roadmap that's going to both align with your dreams and your values. And now I'm going to start digging into your habits by getting you to look at your avatar. And whatever your dream, whether that's to own your own home, to move to a bigger home or a smaller home, to travel the world, or simply retire early, you can set your own clear goals. In this chapter, I'm going to give you step by step. Yes, it's going to be using maybe something that looks familiar, but because of the work we're doing and because taking 2.5 hours like this, I can build on each section and get you to draw in more. The goals that come out of this, the strategies that you learn to earn money are going to be so relatable to specifically you that, as I said, you're never going to need to watch another video again. And you're going to send me an email in a couple of months going how amazing your life is. So let's get on with setting the stage for your wealthy journey. That's effectively what we're doing. We're going to build that. How many metaphors can I do? Set a roadmap, set the stage. You know what I mean. We're going to map out your wealthy life, the path that is going to take you from where you are now to where you want to get. And we've started already by building awareness around your beliefs around money, the myths that you were told as a child. And now what we're going to do is get a bit more concrete again. Because the thing is, money can feel quite overwhelming. It's a bit like a giant puzzle where all the pieces don't fit. Maybe you've avoided checking your bank account. Maybe you're stuck in survival mode. Maybe you're actually doing quite well as far as your paycheck is concerned. And yet, somehow when you look around your life, you're thinking, I could be doing better than this. I just don't understand where my money's going. Or again, maybe you've never even really thought about what would financial success look like for you. Okay, so we're going to get into a personal definition of what wealth means for you. And then, as I said, create that roadmap and give you the confidence that you need to take those steps forward. Let me ask you a question right off. Do you think you're smart enough to handle money? Maybe you do, maybe you don't. And whichever one you are, you're obviously not alone. There's plenty of women that do think they're smart enough to handle money. Maybe they aren't. And there's plenty of women who don't think that they're smart enough to handle money. And maybe they are. Maybe you grew up hearing words like women aren't good with numbers, talking about money is rude, money is complicated. And I think the thing here is that when people are saying these sentences to you, or these phrases, or you remember them, you've got to bear in mind that that's their view of money. They might find money complicated because they don't understand it and they haven't got the strategies to deal with it. And they're going to say things like, women aren't good with numbers. Well, are men any better? We all sat in the same classes at school. So why are we saying women aren't good with numbers when they learnt the same thing as the boys next to them? And we've already tackled talking with money about money is rude, so we know that that's just nonsense. That's history trying to interfere. And these lies, these myths are holding you back. Money isn't something to fear, right? It's a tool for creating the life you want. And I just want to pause there and just re-say that. Money is a tool. It's not emotional. It's not anything else. And when you can start to see it as a tool that you can use, it's really very empowering. Okay. It's going to enable you to take control of your life, stand up for yourself, and let's do this. I want you to say this out loud. Now, if you're on the train, this is going to be funny, but I want you to say this out loud. I am capable, I am in control, and I am building wealth on my terms. So you might need to say that in your head, but I'd really like you to say it out loud. If you're in the car on your own, shout it out. And what I want to do now is take what we've been doing up until now a step further and start to talk about archetypes. So have you ever done an online quiz, or maybe you've thought about your horoscope and gone, oh, wow, that's so me? Well, your financial habits have an archetype too. I've created a quiz that will split you out into 4 different archetypes. Now, of course, the temptation here is going to be that if the answer fits with your current beliefs, maybe your next planned activity, or simply your mood, you're going to be happy with the archetype that you are presented with at the end of the quiz. But if it challenges you, that's when the temptation to ignore it or dismiss it is going to raise its head. And I warn you now, don't dismiss the results of this quiz. It's not so much a challenge to you as really just a mirror at the moment. I'm holding up a mirror. And I remember one of my coaches saying to me years ago, and this really shifted something for me in my thinking. They said, you don't notice something unless you're capable of that attribute or that you need to learn something. Because I've spoken to you before, the unconscious mind that we have, and I'll go into that in more detail in a few chapters. Our unconscious mind is so brilliant that it actually enables us to go, these are all the things you need to learn, and I'm going to keep an eye out for them. And when something comes along that's going to teach you something useful or show you a lesson, then I'm going to present that to you. Now, of course, we're not always paying attention, but when we are paying attention, like now, because you've clicked on this video, now all you've got to do is do the quiz and see what lessons you have to learn from this. So, the money archetype quiz. It's in the playbook and it's designed to sort of draw out some of your natural financial tendencies, your natural habits with money. And what I'd really love you to do is to share whether you're a lioness or whether you are a turtle or an ostrich or a monkey. I would say I am sometimes a lioness, but more often a lioness with a monkey riding on her back. And you might find that you are a mix of these things. You might be a lioness who sometimes is a bit of an ostrich. But have a play with this and look at what your primary archetype is. And then what I want to do is when we've done that, we're going to start feeding that in to the goals that we're going to be doing in a minute. So please make a note in the comments. What are you? A lioness? Are you a monkey? Are you an ostrich? Or maybe you're a tortoise? Let's have a bit of a shift change for a minute and just talk about wealth, because bringing these things together, your archetype, what wealth actually means to you, which is really getting us to make sure that we're all speaking the same language, and then getting into the goals is a really important step-by-step process. I remember having a conversation with a client, a couple that were living together. And when we were talking about what does wealth actually mean to you, the descriptions they gave were completely opposite to one another. So let me ask you this question. What does wealth actually mean to you? Is it the number in your bank account? Is it whether you own a home or not? Is it about freedom, freedom to travel, do what you like, to spend your day anywhere? Is it the fact that you've been able to retire before 65? What does wealth mean to you? So when I asked these clients, they turned around and one of them said, rich is all about how much money I've got in the bank. The other one said, wealth is about money and how much money you've got. And then the husband in the team, if you like, came back and said, no, 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 wealth is about all that you can do with money. And the wife turned around and said, no, wealth is all about the amount of money that you've got. So they had literally taken two words and switched them. Now, if you can imagine having a conversation, either when I'm having a conversation with them and they're coming up with different answers, which is a bit odd, but if they're talking to one another about money, then they don't necessarily have to be using the words rich or wealthy, but underlying this, they've got this feeling that money and wealth and richness and how we interpret all of this is completely the other way around to one another. That's not going to make for healthy and helpful conversations. So, what is your definition of wealthy? I'd love you to put that in the comments as well. What does wealthy mean to you? My definition: rich is the balance of your bank account, and wealth is the sum of your life. And that's why I talk about a wealthy life, and hence, as I've said to you before, the book, A Wealthy Life. Now, let's start a little thought experiment. And it's a bigger experiment if you actually move into the workbook, and I've laid it all out for you. But let me just say these questions to you. If I handed you £100,000 or you won on the lottery or whatever, what would you do with £100,000? Would you maybe pay off some debt? Would you maybe buy a home or clear the mortgage on your home? Would you invest in something, whether it was a business or shares or maybe other properties? Or would you travel? So just have a think for a minute. What would you do with £100,000? Start clearing things off, buying your house, owning things outright. Would you invest to make more money, or would you just spend it and go off and travel? And the reason I've used £100,000 is because £100,000 is an easier number, I think, to think of. If you're struggling with that, take it down to £10,000 and ask yourself the same question. But now what I want to do is say, what if I offered you £1,000,000? So £100,000, you do this, that, and the other. What if you had £1,000,000? Now what would you do? How would your choices change? And if you take a little bit of time when you come back to this video to watch it a second time, this is a chance to go to your notebook and write down your answers. And I would write this long form. I'd actually write myself, as it were, write myself like a little letter, because there is something about that idea of picking up a pen and writing, physically writing, that sometimes the thoughts can come out of your pen that hadn't somehow passed through your conscious mind, and you go, oh, is that really what I think about the answer to this question? And if you actually do it properly, you could write for several pages on these answers. And it's important to do the two stages. So if you had just £100,000, what would you do? Because I do believe the amount of money, 100,000 is a lot less than a million, that if I gave you a million, it's easier to just quick make decisions because there are a million opportunities there for you to pass out that money. But 100,000 is a bit more limited. It's a lot of money, but it's a limited amount. And so this is going to reveal to you hugely what you think and what you feel about money. And again, something to maybe share in the comments. So I've already hinted that what we're going to be doing this time round is actually setting smart goals. So we're going to take everything that we've been doing up until now. So you've got, what does money mean to you? What is wealth and riches? What does that mean to you? What's that definition? We've also dug into your archetype and we've looked at what are your natural tendencies, your natural habits when it comes to money. Now what I want to do is start bringing all of this into action. We're on chapter 2. We've got a fair way to go, and I want to really get us into practical strategies with money, things that you can do, and I'm going to be doing that in the next few chapters. But before we get there, I really want you to have some goals in place, and you'll probably come back round and you'll enhance these goals, improve these goals, maybe as you walk forward through the chapters, but certainly when you come back round for your second watch. And just a reminder again, that's why it's so important for you to bookmark and save this video. So let's start turning vague goals into clear crystal goals, because vague goals will just get you vague results. So you've probably heard of the SMART goal process. This is nothing to do with my model of Be Smart. This is specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. And it's sort of like a well-known business and personal development approach. Now, what I want to do is I want to take that methodology, and rather than just saying to you, oh, go write a SMART goal, I've put in the workbook and broken it all the way down for you that you can tailor this specifically to your archetype. So as I said, my suggestion is that once you've watched this video in full, you're then going to go off and you'll have the workbook that you've downloaded, go through the questions to reveal your archetype. And then when you've revealed your archetype, carry on in the workbook straight into the goal setting exercise and take that knowledge with you. And I've broken the whole process down for you in the workbook, so it's going to make it really easy for you to follow the Lioness SMART goals rather than just SMART goals. So let me just give you one example so that you know what's going on, and then it's going to be more familiar when you get to the workbook. Remember the example we used in the 5 whys question earlier on? I said to you, ask yourself a question 5 times saying why, and we use the example of I want to save £10,000 for a house deposit, and the asks the question why. So let's stick with that question. Now that's quite a specific goal, isn't it? I want to save £10,000. So how much? Very specific. And for what? A house deposit. Great. So that is a great goal to have. But where SMART takes you a bit further is it then asks you, well, how will you know if you've done it? How are we going to break down this goal? So we need it to be measurable. So the answer would be to save £200 a month. That's a very measurable goal. You can set that goal. Obviously, you set a goal that you know that you can achieve, and the whole thing is going to be about what you want to focus on. But I'm just using this as an example. So using that example of £10,000, you will very measurably save 200 a month. Now, is this achievable? That's the A. Well, you could then come back and say, yeah, actually, it is achievable because I'm going to cut out unnecessary expenses and I'm going to increase my own income. Now, I would sort of maybe caveat this example and say if you're going to increase your income, that's a whole nother set of goals that you need to dig into. And if you're going to cut unnecessary expenses, that might be another goal. So you can start to see how you've got the big goal of 10,000, but then that breaks down into smaller goals. But it could be achievable for you to save 200 a month by cutting out unnecessary expenses. And how is this relevant? Right? Because buying a home aligns with your long-term wealth vision. And if you go back to those 5 why questions or put a goal through the 5 whys, this is going to help you answer this question about relevance. Because if you just started off and said, I want to earn £10,000 for a house deposit, and you hadn't sort of thought through why, when it comes to relevance, you might not have such a strong attachment to the goal. You're saving this amount of money because if you can buy a home, that's really what your whole vision is about. So it builds on that relevance there. And what about if we make this time bound? Now, we have said that you're going to save 200 a month. So we could say monthly, but then you can do the maths and you can say, right, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to achieve this in, say, 20 months, for example. Maybe you could decide that you're going to achieve that sooner. Now, if you're only saving 200 a month, the first thing that's going to happen is it's going to take you 50 months. So you need to actually just do the maths to work it out here. But just thinking through that exercise, making your goal specific, making it measurable, making it achievable, and then, of course, the relevance to it and the time-bound piece at the other end. And what's going to happen here is that by bringing in your archetype and your natural habits, what I've been able to do is put examples in the playbook for each one of the architects. I've put in a mock goal and I've shown you some progress steps, if you like, some ways that you can transition from just being one archetype into the next archetype, into the next archetype, until you reach that point where you are strong, you are confident, and you're able to make more and better decisions around managing your money. So, as I say, the workbook is going to help you with a transition plan. And then if that's not enough, there's actually a very specific suggestion for you to be able to move through to ultimately become a lioness, someone who is confident and powerful and able to manage your mind, manage your money, and manage your motivation. There is a lot of work to do in the workbook. And that, I think, is the power here, is that normally you'd watch a video with someone and the only way to get all these exercises would be to buy onto their course. I'm not doing that to you. I've done the workbook and it is free. All you've got to do is click and download it. And I'm not even asking you for an email. You could just download it. If you want to get in touch and share your email, that's perfectly fine. But I want you to be able to truly access this. And I don't want to put any barriers in the way, not paying me money, not giving me your email. Because let's be honest, if I ask you for an email, you're only going to give me that spam account. And then that's pointless anyway, isn't it? So let's be clear. This is about me enabling you, my passion, my mission, my desire to enable you to become more knowledgeable and more confident with money. And why? We've spoken about this so many times. Because women are going to earn less, we're going to take more career breaks, and we're going to live longer, but with a much smaller pension pot for our retirement. This isn't about making you feel bad. I've said that before. This is all about equipping you with the strategies to overcome these societal and environmental, if you like, challenges that we face that not everybody else does. And there's a secret weapon for you here. It's about investing. And I'm going to explain this more. And again, in the playbook, there are pages about this. But investing is a secret weapon. We're going to start off by talking about saving as I work through the workbook, but I want you to know this piece of information. The sooner you start investing, even small amounts, it's going to be to your advantage. That's what we want to do here. We want to make sure that you have every advantage possible. On top of that, investing sooner ties you into, I think probably I would say the biggest advantage of all. It's something called compounding. It's a powerful tool that I don't really think many people outside of the investing world really understand. And of course, actually, one thing that women do less is invest. So let me explain compounding to you. Imagine you invest £1,000 today and your money grows at the rate of 8%. So 1 year later, you will have £1,080. And what most people do is either spend the £80 or probably draw the £1,080 out of their bank account altogether. Well, that's not helpful, right? And you're going, but it's only £80. But it's not just about it being £80 because that's not really that much money, is it? That's a dress, maybe a meal out if you're lucky. But the point is, in 2 years, you're not just earning money on the original £1,000, you're earning money on the £1,080. So instead of making just £80 now, you make £80 64. And this goes on and on and on down the line. You're earning interest on the interest you've already earned. And this sort of turns into, if you like, a small snowball that starts to build into an avalanche of wealth. And when you look at the numbers, it takes ages and ages and ages for it to really build up. But like all of those graphs that sort of shoot up, there is a point where all of a sudden it's just exponential. Then the savings really start to come. And so starting sooner rather than later is really important. Let me give you an example of how this time builds up. So I've got two women. One is called Early Ellie and one is called Late Lucy. And they both want to invest for the future. So Early Ellie starts early and she starts investing at 25 and she just saves for the next 10 years. That's all she does, just the next 10 years. Lucy is a bit late and she waits till she's 35 to start investing. But because she started late, she invests for the next 30 years. She is committed to her investment process. Who do you think has more money at retirement? Early Ellie, who started early, but she only saved for 10 years, that's all, right? Or Late Lucy, she puts 30 years of money in. Surely she must have more. Do you know what? It's Early Ellie that has got the most money. It's because of the compounding effect. And I'm not going to do all the big numbers with you here because it'll just make your head go poof if you're listening. Check out the playbook and have a look at those numbers, at how it changes for them. Because just that 10 years of saving, followed by all of the compounding growth, meant that Lucy had to save, she had to save 3 times as long to even try and catch up. But then when it came to it, she didn't even have like half the money that Ellie had. So the point is, the best time to start investing is yesterday. And if you can't start yesterday, the second best time is today. But before you run off, don't run off. finish watching all of this, do those exercises in the playbook because you need to be confident and you need to be knowledgeable. So in the playbook, I'm also going to talk about inflation and the fact that it's not that easy to get 8% on your savings. So let me just explain one more thing for you. If you've got some savings right now in your bank accounts, in your savings accounts, they might just be sitting in a current account. And what I want you to do is become very conscious with this. And we've talked about being conscious with our money before. You need to put your money into an account that performs better than inflation. And what does that mean? All right. So let's say inflation is at 3% and your money is just sitting in your current account. So your wages come in, a few direct debits go out, you have whatever's left. And if there's a little bit left, then it's sitting in your current account. And maybe that builds up over time. And it's very easy to do. I've done it. I noticed that one of my accounts, hold on a second, that's not true. I didn't notice that one of my accounts, they emailed me and told me that my account rate was reducing. So let's get that straight. So it's an easy thing to do. So my current account rate was going to reduce not even 1% to 0.74%. So nearly 0.75% interest. But inflation was at around 3%. So what does that tell you? Maybe some of you are working this out already. Let me give you the coffee example. If you spent money on coffee over a year, let's say £100 to make our maths nice, and let's say the coffee was £2.50 a cup. Yeah, like that's ever going to be a coffee cup that you would want to drink. But anyway, just go with the maths for a minute. What that means is that your £100 a year coffee habit would get 40 coffees. Perfect. If I left my £100 sitting in that current account where it's getting, call it 0.75% interest, I'm going to earn 74p. That's not even a whole cup of coffee for next year. Now, let's factor in the fact that inflation is 3%. Well, what does that mean? It's not that my money goes down by 3%. It's the fact that the cost of the coffee goes up by 3%. So next year, my cup of coffee at £2.50 will actually cost me £2.57. You're going, well, it's only 7p, Vicky. That's not much. I can cope. But over 40 coffees, that actually means that it's £103 because you've got £100 originally, got me 40 coffees, and I've got to add 3% inflation. And I'm just keeping all the numbers very simple. 103. Now I've only made 74p. So really in my actual bank account is £100 and 74p. But when I get that bill from the coffee shop, I need £103 to buy that 40th cup of coffee. And I don't have the money. I'll have £2 odd short to buy that cup of coffee. So if your money isn't in a performing savings account, one that is beating inflation, and of course, in the long run, you want it to be compounding, you're going to effectively be losing money. So here's a quick lesson for you. Just run through these questions. Do you know where your money is? Do you know all of the savings and bank accounts where all your money is? Are you aware of the current inflation rate? Something you can Google. It's not something you need to Google on a daily basis, but an awareness of current inflation rates. Now, here's the big question. Do you know how much money you are earning in interest on all of those little pots of money that you've got sitting in bank accounts? Because if not, you could literally be losing money while you are sleeping. If you're not checking and you've got £1,000, £10,000, or any number in between sitting in a bank account that's earning you 0.75% interest, you're in trouble. Now, we're going to talk about investing in more detail later on, But this is the first lesson. If you can't manage your money that is sitting just in a savings account, then you haven't got your habits right. You haven't got, let's call it your intention, your motivation, your why for doing this right. Then let's press pause on investing until you've built up your knowledge and your understanding and you can start to move forward. So I just want to go through these action steps that we've done because it's quite a short video, but there is a lot of work for you to do as part of this. And there's a lot for you to understand. So we've talked about what money means to you, what wealth means to you, and discovered your definition of the word wealth and maybe rich and maybe money. We've also, hopefully when you come back round the second time, discovered your archetype. And with that, sort of the natural habits that you would have when it comes to money. And we're going to start looking at how to address those by creating your smart financial goals. As you work through the next chapters, you'll be able to come back and make even better, more effective goals. So have a practice now and then come back round again. And of course, the last thing we did was to explore compounding and inflation. It's in more detail in the playbook, but the points are that the sooner you take action, the better, because you get this compounding effect. And the thing with inflation is that it is always there. And that's what makes everything cost more. Well, if your money isn't earning enough money to keep up with the cost of inflation, your overall pot is shrinking. And that's why this idea of keeping cash sitting, under your mattress isn't going to do you any good at all. You have to become smarter with your money. You've worked hard to earn it, and now it needs to return the favor. It needs to work hard in order that you can have the wealthy life that you want. So your action steps are the quiz, the SMART Goals worksheet, and of course, as always, at the end of each section, I want you to think about what is your big takeaway from this chapter. And please write it down in the comments, share with others, because what you might find as you read through the comments is that somebody else has taken something, has got a lesson out of here that you didn't. And it might be one that you also need. It might be one that you already know. Maybe in sharing your insight, your takeaway from this chapter, you can help somebody else accelerate their learning and their understanding. And that's what we're here for, to help one another. So next up, we're going to be talking about mastering your money management. And this is really about taking us into the start of these strategies. It's the time to create the actual action plan so that you can achieve the financial success that you want. We're not going to be fluffy about this. It's not going to be any wishful thinking, just smart, strategic tools that work. So let's take that idea of money management and talk about saving strategically. Now, I already spoke to you about the effects of compounding and, of course, inflation. And I want you to get to a place where you're not thinking about saving pennies and feeling broke all the time. I want you to have a foolproof system where you can save money automatically, even without noticing. And this is the Lioness Saving System, where every single pound counts towards your wealthy future. We're shifting away from this old idea of you just save what's left at the end of the month. Because for some people, that's nothing. And for other people, when there is money left at the end of the month, that's an opportunity to go and spend it. And what I want to do is turn it on its head. Because if you don't start prioritizing your savings, and there are different sorts of savings that I'm going to speak to you about, you're going to find that you lose out because you're not going to get the benefits of this compounding effect that I've been talking about. I want to make it effortless. I want to make it automatic. I want to make it something that you actually feel good about. And this idea of building in resilience, having an allocated pot of money that no matter what happens to you in life, because you feel powerful, the true power, if you like, of a lioness, the ability to more than just survive, to actually thrive and protect those that matter to you most, no matter what, that you're going to recognize how important resilience is. So over the next few minutes, I don't know how long I'll talk again, but over the next, let's say 20 minutes or so, I really want you to understand how allocating your money so that every pound has a purpose. You know, when the money comes in, it's going somewhere specific, and where it lands means something to you. And that's going to help you build in this idea of financial protection and resilience, and prepare you for when we're going to start moving on to investing. And I'm going to show you some simple ways to free up extra money more than you thought you could. Let's go back again and just recap, why is saving so powerful? And then you're going to say to me, hold on, before you even start talking about that, and I know you're going to give me all the excuses, it's really difficult if money's tight. I understand that. It might even feel impossible. But the truth is, if you don't save money, even if it feels tight, it's going to cost you more in the long run. And maybe you feel like you've got plenty of money at the moment, so saving money might feel redundant because it's not something that you need to do because you've got plenty. But again, if you're not making every one of those pounds count, not saving now will cost you in the long run. There's a recurring theme here. Not saving is bad news. Saving when you're not doing it consciously and aware of inflation and aware of saving rates is also bad news, but not saving at all is the worst. And why? Do I really need to say it again? Women need bigger emergency funds, okay? I don't think I need to labour that point. But maybe something that you haven't thought about is the money buffer rule. Before you think about investing, you need to have this resilience fund, because without this money buffer, this resilience pot, if you go saving or investing or carrying on with your life, as soon as something hits you, you're going to need to apply for a credit card because you don't have cash reserves that you can draw on. And that's going to derail your finances again. That's going to put you into debt. That's going to cause you to be charged interest on money when you could have had that money to one side to protect you. I want to just start by explaining a concept that I've been thinking about and talking about for about the last 10 years. Let me tell you about enough, more than enough, and much more than enough. I want to talk to you about enough. Enough can have such negative connotations. It can be about the gap. I don't have enough. But the reality is we all have enough. And you know how I know that? Because you're watching this video. And if you're watching this video, you must have a device. You're probably wearing clothes, at least I hope you are. So you have clothes on your back. You're probably not hungry unless it's lunchtime, so you have food in your belly. That means that we're already in the 1%. We already have enough. We have roofs over our head, clothes on our back, food in our bellies. Now, the thing is that when we don't appreciate that we have enough, first off, your mindset is all focused on the gaps, and we'll speak about that. But it's not easy to then level out your goals. If you start with a goal that says, I want to have enough money to cover my essentials, which is what we're going to be working towards, then the chances are you're already there. So you've hit your first goal, which then means that your second goal is to have more than enough. And what is more than enough money? Well, more than enough money means that you can go out for a meal when you want, when you can have holidays when you want. Think about it. That's the planned spending that I'm talking about, that annual planned spending, birthdays, Christmases, meals out, holidays, concerts, things like that. And then you don't have to just stick at more than enough. You can have much more than enough if you want. And much more than enough is that place of security. knowing that you don't have to work if you don't want to, knowing that your future is guaranteed. So those are the three levels of money that I want you to think about. That you have enough. First of all, you have enough. You are now going to work towards having more than enough. And maybe you already have more than enough, so you'll be working towards financial security that comes with much more than enough. So those are the three words, and I'm taking enough, those essential costs to cover your mortgage, your utility bills, travel expenses, as that first pot that you are going to direct all your direct debits to. Okay, let's get back with the lessons. Okay, well, I hope that that sort of made you think around that maybe you do have enough already. And now what we need to do is introduce that idea of, as I said to you, the Lioness Saving System. So most people, when they tell you to save, they'll just say, save your money. Maybe they'll mention saving it in an account where you're earning interest. But what I want you to do is to start thinking about pots. I'm just going to introduce it to you now, and then I'm going to show you the diagrams and make it more visual for you. But I just want to talk it through with you at the moment. So really there are 4 steps to this system. Number 1 is secure. You need to build your resilience fund, this buffer. Now, what is this? It's both your financial safety net, but it's very specifically, preferably 6 months, but at least 3 towards 6 months of your essential living expenses. This, in a sense, is like your personal insurance policy. It's going to protect you from needing to rely on debt, but actually it's going to be something that you never need to draw on, because you are going to be prepared for all circumstances that may come your way now and in the future. Now, I slipped something in there and I said that it was 6 months of your essential living expenses. And you might think I haven't explained that. I will explain that in the future when we look at all the pots. But if you remember what I was just saying about enough, your essential living expenses are enough. If you had enough money to cover your essential living expenses, that's great, because that means on a monthly basis you don't need to go into debt. Now what I want you to do is to put aside 6 times that amount, because then when anything happens, you've got 6 months' money to give you the security that you need, so that you can then focus on fixing the problem, overcoming the challenge, tackling whatever it is that life has sent your way. If you don't have this resilience fund, this security, then your head is going to be worrying about the fact that you don't have any money rather than thinking of solutions. So it's a really important pot for you to master straight away. It's your priority. And then you're going to go, well, hold on a second, Vicki, you said that investing was important and saving was important. It is. But if you don't build up this security fund, and effectively what you're doing is saving money until you've got 6 months' money to give you that security. It's a very specific line of saving that you're going to do early on. You have to do that before you start investing or before you do anything else, because that's where your confidence comes from. Step 2 is to actually invest, but you're only going to do this if you've got the money and after you've built up the 6 months. Now, I believe when we move on and I help you find extra money, you're going to have enough money. You're going to have money for your security pot, and you're going to have money for your investment pot. And I know lots of you will be in this position. Some of you might have to work a bit harder to get here, but that's the point of this. Whatever position you're in, I'm going to give you the tools so that you can get to the point where you can set up these pots. Invest is something that you focus on, particularly once your resilience fund is sorted. And I'm going to show you the 2 levels of the Lioness Saving System. So if you're in a position where you don't feel that you have a lot of money, you don't have money that you can start straight away as putting into your secure pot, we'll build on that and eventually we'll then flip that over into investment. Do not worry, it's in the workbook and I'm going to show you the diagrams again in a minute. So step 3 is to plan. Now, this is a planned savings fund. It's really for, if you like, short-term rather than long-term savings. So investment is long-term savings. You put them into your investment pots, whatever they are, whatever fits your risk profile, and you do not touch those. They're there for the future. But plan is around shorter term savings. So this is where you're planning for holidays, where you're planning for home renovations, maybe your child's future. It might be birthdays and Christmases. That's what this is. Almost think of it as like an annual saving fund. So you know what's coming up in the next 12 months and you're saving for it. And then the money drifts off as you use it up, but you're also replenishing it for the next 12 months. And you might have picked up there that I'm talking about planned and then holidays. So rather than buying your holidays and then working out how to pay them afterwards, you're going to save up for them and you're going to go, but Vicky, I want a holiday this year. Well, I'm going to ask you that if you can't afford it, that maybe you don't take that holiday this year and you save up, and then next year you can have a holiday that in effect will be cheaper. Be cheaper on so many levels. One, because your savings were in an account where they're earning interest. Two, they're earning more interest than inflation. So even if the prices have gone up, you've earned more money in your savings. But also three, instead of paying for a holiday on a credit card and then not being able to clear it, or whatever system you're doing, you're not going to be getting into debt for these things. Planned short-term savings are going to take so much stress out of your life by helping you prepare for the future without having to go into debt. And that's what we want. And then here's the shocker. Your fund money in a pot called spend is only allowed after you've taken care of your future. And the future is your security, 6 months enough money, your investments for your long-term future, your retirement, your life, because you're going to live a long life. And 3, your planned annual expenses. Then, if there is any money left, you're going to be in a position where you can have some fun. And again, for some of you, maybe this means that you're going to start taking homemade sandwiches to work or salad pots to work rather than buying your lunch out. You're going to start flipping it on its head. But I believe for a lot of you, you're going to be in a position where when I show you these pots in detail and you work through the workbook, that you're going to find this easy-ish. That's what I'm going to say, easy-ish. And can you see the difference with this? This is, you're not going to save what's left. You're going to make saving your priority. Saving for your resilience, saving for your future, saving for your annual expenses, your annual fund, and the treats, the other stuff, the coffees, everything else, lunch with friends, whatever it is, then comes out of what's left if you can afford it. And I know there's going to be some resilience from some of you towards this. But the thing is that every lioness starts life as a cub, builds her strength consistently until she gets to lead her pride. And that's what I want for you, to have pride, to feel confident, to feel knowledgeable, to be in a position where you have the strength to overcome anything. I thought to myself, what are your objections going to be? And what I would say before I explain these to you is actually these are excuses dressed up as fear. Maybe you feel a little apprehensive. And that's good, because that means that you're about to make a big change. That is your unconscious saying to you, oh, I'm not sure that I want to be doing this. It's going to be really different. But it's going to be really different for a good reason, because life is going to be a lot different for you. So what about your first thing? It's, well, I just don't earn enough money to save. Okay, that's fine, because you're not saving what's left. You're saving what you have right at the beginning. So you will always have enough money to save, and you only then spend afterwards. And even a £10 a month savings pot will build a habit, but I'm going to encourage you to do a lot more than that. Then what about, I'm scared of investing, what if I lose my money? That's a perfectly reasonable thought to have, and that's why we're taking this slowly, if you like. We're going to be working our way through, first of all, setting up all these savings pots so you're very conscious with your money. You become very tactile with your money, almost bringing us back to when we used to actually have pound notes, because we've lost so much connection to our money. Once you become more connected to your money, then this idea of what if I lose it will go out the window, because you'll only make investment decisions based on your risk profile and being confident and knowledgeable about what you're getting into. So that's fine. What about keeping all your money in cash means that you're losing out to inflation? So for example, the cash pot that I want you to have. Yes, that's absolutely true. But you're not going to be keeping it as cash. You're going to be keeping it in savings pots that earn more than inflation. Okay. What about this excuse? I'm going to start saving when I earn more money. Oh, no, you're not. Because what happens is that your lifestyle will creep up and will expand to fill the extra earnings. How many times over your life have you had a bonus? Whether it's a bonus at work, or, sometimes they do those Christmas bonuses, or maybe you've even come into an inheritance, or maybe you've won some money on premium bonds or savings or the lottery. And where is that money now? It's just gone. If you don't develop the savings habit now, more income isn't going to magically fix it. Here's another one. But Vicky, I don't want to have to think about money all the time. Well, actually, not thinking about money is going to make it a lot more stressful. And then you're not so much thinking about money as you're thinking about your financial problems. So let's do it now. Let's just set it up, and then it will be really easy. And you don't have to keep thinking about it. And actually, it becomes almost like a habit, like breathing. It's just going to happen for you. It will be fine. Here's another one for you. But I want to enjoy my money now, not just save for the future. I'm only young. Of course you are. First off, one day you are going to get a bit older, and you are going to need that money. And the Lioness system isn't about just putting all the money out in the future and not having any fun. It's about ensuring that you get a good life today while also protecting your future self. And that's why the pots are in the order they are in. And maybe the last one I'll just tackle. I have too much debt to save now. Yes, maybe you do, but you also need an emergency fund. And a bit later on, I'm going to show you how to manage your credit card debt. There's a section on that coming up in a few chapters, so that you can reduce your credit card debt while increasing your emergency fund, your secure pot. So now those are all out the way, I'm going to challenge you to find extra money. And when you find this extra money, I'd like you to post it in the comments. How much did you find? When I did this exercise, now I have to say it was a few years ago, but I went through all my bank statements and all my credit cards, and I looked at everything. As I say, everything I'm sharing with you is things that I have done myself, that I found beneficial, things that I wish I'd done sooner. And so that's why I want you to do them now. I went through all these statements and I found payments to a specific life insurance or a medical insurance policy that I had. But my two daughters were over 18 at the time. I know I don't look like it, but they were. And this is a long time ago. My two daughters were over 18. Then when we thought about it, well, hold on a second. This insurance policy says for 2 adults and 2 children. Let's read the details. Then I checked out the insurance policy. And you know what? The kids weren't covered once they hit their 18th birthday. Now, for both of them to be over 18, that meant one of them, I'd been paying for them for 2 years. I'd been paying on the life insurance and they weren't covered. I was furious. Now, the thing is, companies that are taking your money aren't going to ring you up and go, oh, you know what? Your daughter's just had her 18th birthday. She's no longer covered by this insurance policy. You might want to reduce your premium. Of course, they're not going to do that. So my challenge to you is to find at least £200. I found, I think it was 456, something like that, over 450 quid when I went through it. Combination of life insurance policies and medical policies that weren't fit for purpose anymore because they'd expired their purpose. And I had some subscriptions that, I don't know, I was paying for things that I didn't even remember I was paying for. So here's how you do it. You're going to first off track your spending. You're going to go through your last 3 months bank statements. And then you're going to say to me, but I don't have them anymore. So you're going to log into your bank, any of your banks, any of your savings accounts, any of the apps that you have on your phone, and you are going to save and download the last 3 months of statements. And then you're going to line them up and you're going to have a look at where your money is really going. And you're going to look at it line by line. Do I know what this is for? Do I know what this is for? This is for insurance. What insurance is that? Do we still need that insurance? Is that insurance still valid? I am absolutely not telling you to cancel insurance policies, but check the terms, because not all insurances will be doing what you set them up for. And what you might need to do is to change them to new insurance policies, or speak to your insurance broker and go, is this still valid for me? And then I want to look at where your spending leaks are. Now, these spending leaks are, if you like, wasteful spending. There's stuff that you can cut out of your life without sacrificing happiness. And I would say things like, when we spoke about unconscious spending, we talked about how you go to the shops maybe without a shopping list. That can allow spending leaks. Be conscious in your shopping, tracking your spending and looking at your spending leaks. Maybe what you want to do is go through with 2 different color or 3 different color highlighter pens. Do love a highlighter pen. So one is, these are all the things that I know and they're absolutely right. 2, these are the things that I need to check out. And then that 3rd color is, did I really need to buy that? My challenge to find at least £200. How much can you find? Stick it in the comments and let us know. And what I want to do here is, just before we move on to actually looking at the pots, is this idea of saving yet again. So I'm saying to you that in the long run, you need to invest, but to invest, you need to feel confident and you need to be conscious with your money and increase your knowledge. So we're saving, investing for a minute. But along the way, I'm telling you, there are going to be all these pots that you're going to create, these 4 pots. And one of those pots is called invest, and one of those pots is called secure. Well, hold on a second. Now you're saying they're savings, but you said that savings weren't going to give me enough money for the future. That's right. But what you can do is take this intermediate step to investment, where you are conscious about where your savings are, and you make sure that your savings are in those performance savings accounts where you are maximizing the interest you are getting, that you are beating inflation. So let's just look at those pots. The resilience fund, the secure pot, the very first one that you're going to feed into until you've got 6 months money. It's your emergency pot. So you never want to have to use it. Remember, I called it your personal insurance policy. You don't want to have any sort of financial crisis now or any time in the future. I've effectively asked you to save 6 months money and keep it in a savings account, but then not invest it? No, you must keep it accessible. Now, It's going to be a high rate interest account. And I would suggest that to stop you being able to get at it easily, however, allow you to get at it in enough time that if there is a crisis, you can draw on it, that you put it away for something like 1 to 3 months. You're going to keep them fairly easily accessible, definitely in the highest earning interest savings account that you can. And I would recommend somewhere between 1 and 3 months. Again, not financial advice. This is what I do. The other thing that I've asked you to do is to look at invest, to have an invest account. Now, the first simplest way of doing this, if you don't already have them, are things like cash ISAs or a stock ISA. And again, not as a financial advisor, but just the laywoman's description of a cash ISA. At the moment, and this could always change, the government allows us to save up to £20,000 in this special sort of savings account, and then we don't have to pay any tax on the interest. Next, you might say to yourself, well, I've been doing this for 2-3 years, whatever the amount is. I'm ready to take the next step. And then what you might do is start moving some money into maybe a stocks ISA, which will have more risk attached to it, more reward potentially, but more risk. Or you may then decide to invest in something else, like I started to invest in property. So the pots that I have described to you all have a purpose. They are all going to be set up automatically. I'll explain that shortly. And then you're going to make sure that they are in savings accounts where they are earning the best possible interest. Now what we need to do is decide how much you're going to put in each pot. And I'm going to get you to complete an income and expenses worksheet so that you can find out your savings. You'll see one of 2 different documents, a Word document so that you can just fill it out, if you like, more simply, more grouped up, but to get you in the process of doing it. And then there is a more detailed Excel spreadsheet that is there for the 3 months so that you can put your data in there and you can start to track your money, because your money is your power and you need to make sure that you keep more of it and that it works harder for you. So now we've tackled your excuses from the last chapter, let's talk specifically about how the Lioness Saving Systems will prioritize your money in a way that is both simple, powerful, and yet designed for you to work, whatever your archetype, whatever your motivations, whatever your values, because you're going to create it. So before we move forward, I just want to recap what you're going to need to know in advance of filling this out, but I'm just setting the scene for you. So you're going to check the playbook, because in there is both a simple budgeting table in Word, and there is also the complete Excel savings prioritization workbook. Really, that's tracking your income and expenses. But I've called it savings prioritization specifically so that we can change the way that we think. The link is in the workbook because it's an Excel spreadsheet. I did say there wouldn't be too many. This is the first of 2. When you fill it out, you have to be honest. There is no point lying on this spreadsheet because the only person it's going to affect is you. None of us, you're not going to post your answers in the worksheet or in the comments on the side. It is all for you. So honesty is absolutely key to this. And while we're talking about honesty, also in the workbook, there is a link to a second Excel spreadsheet called the Master Credit Card and Loan Tracker. And this is where you're going to put any debt that you're carrying so that you can track it. Now, this is one thing I am going to ask you to comment. Do you already have some sort of credit card tracking document? Do you have somewhere where you have listed the name of the card, how much is outstanding, what interest you're paying, and when it is due up. So particularly if you've got a 0% credit card. If you have, comment over in the chat on the side and say, I am a credit card checker. But I bet we don't have a lot of people. You might say that you check, but if you do it from memory, rather than having a document that you fill out, that doesn't count. You have to have a specific document where you have listed your credit cards and that you check on a monthly basis that you are paying those down. If you don't, then you can't comment. So what we're going to be looking at is your income and expenses, being honest, filling out that savings priorities workbook that I have lined up so that each of the lines of spend or lines of expense tie in with the pots that I introduced you to in the last chapter. And then with the credit cards, what we're looking at is making sure that you can have that list so that we can start paying down any outstanding debt. While I'm talking about credit cards, if you are more advanced and you're not carrying debt, then one of the things that you might want to look at is which credit cards you use, because some of those cards will give you points. You can have your Tesco's points that have got links into the vouchers, and now you can buy things much cheaper in the shop, or can you? It depends whether they're telling the truth about those figures or not. You've also got the same with Sainsbury's, and I'm quite sure a lot of other of the supermarkets are getting there. You've got points that you can collect with Boots and so on. In fact, pretty much everywhere, even the coffee shop, is getting you to collect points. But if you like holidays, you might be interested in Amex. So whatever we might think about British Airways, we use a British Airways Amex card, American Express card. It has to be cleared on a monthly basis. So very good advanced strategy. When you know that you can manage your spending and clear it every month, this is perfect for you. And those Avios points accrue so that they then can fund your holidays. So I've put the link here for you. And if you're interested, then you and I will both get extra points. Why not? You'll get more points going through a link than you will if you go direct to Amex. So let's just pause for a minute while I explain the different types of debt. Now, you might already know about this, but I just want to make sure that everybody is on the same page, understanding the same language. And that's because I've just recently recorded a podcast with Katie Vi from Better with Money, part of the NatWest brand, where we've been talking about how financial language actually excludes a lot of women. So let's just make sure that we've got all of these words or definitions clear in our head. So one type of debt that you might come across is called a secured loan or secured debt. And an example of this might be your mortgage, because you've taken out a loan against a house, and what the bank has done is in land registry put a charge against your house that effectively says, if you don't make your mortgage payments, I have the right to repossess your house. You can also see this, for example, with cars, where you might buy a car on finance, and if you don't make those payments, they will come back and repossess that car. So secured debt is where a lender lends against something that they can seize if you do not make your payments, which obviously you don't want to be in that position. The second type of debt, and I'm sure there's many other sort of types of loans and debt and everything else, but I just want to talk about these three, is a bank loan. So a bank loan, typically you might take out some money to buy something that you currently do not have the cash. It will be at a fixed interest rate usually. And probably in, the region of more than 6 and less than 10, if you've got a good credit score. Now, I think the thing I want to say here is, why would you take out a bank loan? Because if you're going to buy something that requires finance, like a large purchase, like a car or a house, then you're going to be in a position where the vendor of that will want you to make the purchase, and they can often offer you finance. And the finance they might offer you could well be at 0%. So, for example, we bought our kitchen when we were doing up this house. We had the money in the bank to pay for it in cash. I was going to pay for it on a credit card using our Amex so that we got the points and then clear it at the end of the month. That was the plan. While we were in the shop, finally agreeing the details of the new kitchen, they offered us finance at 0%. Now, the price didn't go up on the product because sometimes you've got to watch it that they've stuck admin fees or increased the price of something. The price was the same whether I paid cash. We did ask for a discount, but we'd already got all the discounts that we could get. And we still had that price if we put it on a loan with them that was going to take, we chose 5 years to pay it back because why not pay it back for as long as you can? And that money is now sitting with us in our savings. So instead of using money out of our savings, losing interest and paying it over to the retailer, we've got 0% interest, which is perfect. And then we're actually paying that debt down at an amount that suits us. The cost of the kitchen is earning interest in the bank. So why would you take out a bank loan? Not completely sure. But think about it. If you can get 0% finance somewhere else, why wouldn't you do that? And the third form of debt, if you like, is unsecured. And this is a credit card as an example. Now, on the one hand, lenders like you to use credit cards because if you use them well, it demonstrates that you have the skills to manage your money. But what they're also banking on, because it's so easy to spend, is that you will go tap, 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 get to the end of the month, not be able to clear your account in full, pay some off and maybe leave some. They then get to charge you at really quite a high form of interest because it's unsecure, somewhere between 18 and 28%, even if you've got a good credit rating. And then, because next month you're now starting where you're carrying a debt, you've got all your normal monthly expenses to go through, you're going to be in debt again at the end of that month. And that's how the debt snowballs and builds. And you really have to be conscious of your spending to make sure that that doesn't happen to you with credit cards. And then, although I'm not really going to mention it, then there are the more loan sharky type of loans. And I don't mean a loan shark that's on a council estate preying on people. I mean those adverts that you can often see on the trains above your seats, where it's offering you ways that you can borrow money. But when you read the tiny small print, it's offering you this loan, but the equivalent interest is sort of 3,000-4,000% a year. It's ridiculous. So make sure that when you are doing anything where you're buying something that you haven't saved for in advance and it requires some form of a loan or using a credit card, that you completely understand the cost of that debt. Because any saving you might get on buying that holiday or buying that outfit or buying anything in a sale when you don't have the money in advance, and then you're carrying that cost over months and months and months into the future and maybe paying 18 or 20% interest rate, is really not a saving at all then, is it? Okay, so banks and lenders, and therefore the credit reports, don't really like unsecured debt. But as I said, they want to see that it is well managed. So here's a couple of lessons to get you into the habit of managing your credit cards. Always set up a direct debit. Make it a minimum of £100, or if your minimum payment is more, then more. And what I want you to do is have this in place, because if you miss a payment, you will ruin your credit score. And why does that matter? Because your credit scores are the ways that you can access affordable / cheap loans in the future. If you're planning to buy a house and you miss credit card payments or you miss your mobile phone payments, then you are going to affect your credit score and you're going to be in a position where you may be refused a mortgage in the future. And this is what we need to be teaching our kids particularly with mobile phones. Have direct debits set up. Don't let something silly like a £20 mobile phone bill be the thing that damages your credit score. And I will put in here a link for you so that you can actually check your credit score, because that's really important, knowing what your credit score is as we walk through this. And then what I want you to do is get into a position where you know your credit score, you've got this list of all of your credit cards, you've got your 0% cards where you're carrying debt, you've got your minimum direct debits there, and now you are managing your cards well. You'll start to see your credit score increase if it's not already in the 900s. So just to summarize, get your credit score, list your cards, make sure that they're on 0% as much as they can. If you're carrying debt, then I'm going to talk to you about paying it down. If you have a poor score, look at why and fix it, and make sure you never miss a payment. Let's talk a bit more about, just briefly, this idea of paying down debt. Now, you might not be carrying any debt at all, but I would like you to stay and listen to this, because you might learn something that you could pass on to somebody else. As you grow in confidence about money, you'll find you're having more money conversations with family, with friends. And if somebody else is struggling with their credit cards, you could be the person that makes a difference to them. Of course, refer them to this video as well. There are two methods that are commonly thought of as a way to clear your credit cards. One is called the snowball method, and one is called the avalanche. The idea of the snowball is that you're tackling small amounts to start with, and the avalanche is that you're tackling a big amount to start with. Now, I don't think either of those methods, in all the ways that I looked online, are really showing you the whole process. They're not explaining it properly. And so what I wanted to do is take it and enhance it and create something that I'm calling the breakthrough debt repayment method. Now, the way to do this is through these steps that I'm going to share with you. And the first step I'm going to share is effectively the most vital to debt repayment, because without this, the process is going to take much longer and risks failure. And just to remind you again, I am not a financial advisor. This worked for me. This is how I did it. When I used the money maths brain set that I've got, I worked out how to make this difference, and I accelerated my journey out of debt. If you remember, I started off in debt right at the very beginning of this. So, number one, in that list of credit cards you've got, we want to know what interest rate you're paying. So if you are carrying an outstanding debt on a credit card and it is not already on a 0% card, that is your number one priority, to apply for a 0% card so that you can reduce that debt. Now, if you're in really bad position where you've got a low credit score, you might not be allowed another credit card, in which case you'll have to phone the credit card companies and ask them. Don't get into any agreements with them, but ask them to suspend interest on your account for, let's say, the next 2 years, so that you can really pay down the debt. More often than not, they will agree to this. So to be clear, this doesn't mean entering into something called an IVA, an individual voluntary agreement, which is a step before getting made bankrupt. I'm not asking you to do that. It's just a conversation with a credit card company to wipe that interest rate down to zero so that you can make headway. If you're applying for a new 0% credit card, then what you want to be doing is looking for something that lasts 18 to 24 months, because then the fee, the 5% fee, is spread over 2 years, and it really only costs you 2.5% on that loan. If you think of it that way round, that's really cheap money. Then what you're going to do is you're going to set up your direct debits from your enough account, the account that has all your direct debits in. You're going to set up direct debits to cover all of those minimum payments, and that needs to be part of your 70% budget. You're going to start with the smallest credit card debt first. Now, this is going to be a bit odd. So you've got, say, 5 credit cards and they're all lined up. And this top one is your smallest pot, the least amount of money that you owe. And you might be thinking, well, why don't I pay off the biggest one because it is the biggest amount of money? That's the avalanche approach. And I feel that when you do that, it's very hard to see that you're being successful. You've still got 5 credit cards with debt, and it goes on and on and on and on. Whereas if you take my approach, you stop all of the interest. So you're actually paying down the debt itself and not just paying off the interest. You can start to tackle these cards so much quicker. Each one of these cards is going to have, in my example, £100 minimum direct debit on. So that's £500 already going towards clearing your debt. And then you're going to overpay card one to the best of your abilities. So you're going to pay off 100, and hopefully you're going to pay off another 50 this month, and maybe another 100 next month, and then maybe 50 the month after, and another 100, and so on. And eventually you will clear card number one. Now you've only got 4 cards, but you've been paying 500 a month. So what you can do is take the 100 direct debit from card one and attach it to card two. 3 of your cards are paying 100 a month. 1 of your card is being paid down at 200 a month on direct debit, plus what you've been able to overpay. So you can see how card 2 will actually really speed up. It's slightly more than card 1 in terms of the size of the debt, but you're hammering it with so much more money. By the time you get to 3, 4, 5, by the time you get to 5, you've taken all of those 5 £100 direct debits, applied it to this last card, which has your biggest debt. You're then doing overpayment. It's going to reduce the biggest debt quicker than if you start the other way round. And then once you're debt free, you can breathe, with the caveat that you don't get back into debt again. It could also be that this process takes you anywhere from 1 to 5 years. But I have spoken to professional people, especially during the pandemic, where people were really struggling with debt and credit card debt, some of them because they didn't qualify for furlough payments and things like that. And one person I spoke to, I remember very clearly, they were in a position where they were just avoiding the letters in the post. They were so stressed. They were at home, isolated, and then all of these letters were coming threatening them. So then they were in a position where we had a conversation, they could see their way through. They followed this process and they are completely debt free and have been for a couple of years. And they're now even in the position where they have got tens of thousands of savings because they've turned that corner. And this doesn't have to be something that just affects people on low income. I've spoken to plenty of couples who are high rate taxpayers who don't have conversations about money and don't know that one of the partnership is in considerable debt. You need to tackle this. I mentioned that if your savings aren't earning interest above inflation, you're losing money. If you've got credit cards on high rate interest, then you are losing money. All the work that you're doing is for nothing because you are losing money. We have to plug those gaps. If that doesn't apply to you because you're not carrying debt, now maybe you can understand why it's so overwhelming for everybody else, and maybe you'll be able to help someone in the future. That would be my hope for you. Let's move on now to actually the whole Lioness Saving System. And I've introduced this briefly, so let me just run through the name of those 3 pots. There is the secure pot, which is your resilience fund, 3 to 6 months worth of money. There is the invest pot, which is where you are going to start putting money for your future and you're not going to touch it. In the early days, it's going to be simply a high rate interest savings account. And eventually, as that money starts to accumulate, you'll make better decisions. You might move on to having a tax-free ISA, or you might have a tax-free share ISA. You might start investing in funds, but you've got to get that pot going first of all. And then you're going to have your main direct debit pot. I call this the enough pots. Remember, the bare essentials are all in there, plus your food. Everything is a known expense, except maybe, as I say, that food shopping. So you have to keep an eye on it. And sitting below that is your planned, let's call them your annual expenses. It's where you save for a new car, you save for holidays, maybe household maintenance, and things like birthdays and Christmas. And that's what's in that last planned savings pot. That is money that you will draw on as and when an event comes up. The secure pot and the investment pot, I would highly recommend, are in a separate bank account with a separate bank, so that when you're dealing with your direct debits in the enough and you're dealing with one of your planned events coming up that you've been saving money for, you're in one account and you just don't think about your resilience pot over there. It's staying there in case something happens, and you don't think about your savings pot. It's staying there. You will check on them once a quarter. That's a good habit to have, but you're not going to be tempted to draw money back out again. So what you do is you put 70% of your wages from your wages account into your enough pot. If you are in a relationship, you might choose to put 35% each. It could be that when you go through the income and expenses sheet, the savings priorities sheet, that actually what you realize is that you don't need 70% of your wages to go in to cover all your direct debits. You may need less. If you need more, you need to address that. Then you are going to set up another direct debit from your wages account, and you are going to transfer that into your resilience pot. And the reason that you are going to do that is because you need to build up a secure pot with 3, preferably 6 months worth of your enough money, so that if anything happens, you've got that breathing space. Fine. Once you have secured the secure pot at 6 months level, so for example, if you need £2,000 a month to cover all your direct debits and your essential costs, you need 12 months in your secure pot. If you need £4,000 a month, you need 24 in your secure pot. It's like your real life insurance, to be called on in a disaster, but something you hope that you're never going to need to use. Once you've achieved that, that direct debit of 15% can then be added to your invest pot. And what you will then end up with is 20% of your savings going towards this investment pot. And then you can see how it starts to build and accumulate really quickly. Left out of all of this is 10%. And you're going to put 5% of that into a second separate account, possibly one that sits under your main direct debit in the same bank. But this is where your, let's call them your short-term planned expenses are, your holidays, your Christmases, birthdays, and maybe household maintenance. And then you should be left with 5% of your wages or more sitting in your main wages account, the first account that your wages came into. And whatever you've got left over there, that is now for you to make that conscious decision. Are you going to add it to your invest pot? Are you going to add it to your secure pot? Are you going to add it to your planned pot? Or maybe you're going to treat yourself, get your hair done, or go out with your partner. If you do not have money left in that pot, once you have dealt with your direct debits, dealt with your secure pot, dealt with your investment,
even at that first 5% amount, and put some money aside for future planned expenses that you know are coming up, then you're going to have to cut back on your fund money effectively for the next few months until you get on top of this. As soon as you've got that secure pot in place, you'll get another 15% money circulating. And maybe you only add 10% to your investment pot and you now get that 5% back to spend. So remember, if you're in a relationship, you should be able to cover your essential bills. You should be able to cover your planned expenses jointly, and then you separately as a woman, because you need this, will have a resilience fund, your secure 6 months worth of money, and you will have your savings and investment fund for your future, and then you'll have some fun money on the side. Now, for a lot of you, based on my experience of speaking to women, you do want this discipline. You know that you can manage your money. You've been doing it for years, but not with conscious strategies like this. You may have been running on instinct, and now you're going to plan. Now you're going to be in control. And at the end of this, you're going to be so much more confident about your money that it's going to bring you joy. Now, I did mention that when you open your different bank account where you're going to put your secure pot and your invest pot, that you will want to check on this. But what I want you to do is not be looking at it all the time, because that leads to temptation. What we want to do is create powerful habits to basically transform your confidence, but also transform the way that you think about money. So we're going to set a 10-minute money date. No shame, no blame, no stress, no judgment. And this isn't going to be about spreadsheets. They'll already be taken care of. This is just a little exercise that you're going to put a date in your diary. Maybe you're going to do it on a Friday evening when you get home. Maybe you're going to do it on a Monday after the weekend. Maybe you'll do it over the weekend. But what I want you to do is allocate 10 or 15 minutes to this habit that you're going to create on a weekly basis. So, first thing that you're going to do is just a quick check of your accounts. You're going to log into any bank accounts and any credit cards, easy peasy, probably all on your phone anyway. You're just going to run through all of your spending, looking at all of the payments, looking at what's gone in, what's gone out, and look for any unexpected transactions. And these can be in two forms. One, maybe somebody's trying to rob you type of unexpected transaction. I hope not. But it could also be, hold on a second. How many times did I go for a coffee? I don't remember buying that. That's it. I don't remember buying that, because you just tapped your phone and you didn't think about it. Maybe you'll find a sneaky subscription that you forgot about. That's what we want to do in that time. And then once a month, maybe once a quarter, you're then going to go and check those other two accounts to make sure that your savings and your investment pots are both growing and performing. You want to make sure that they've got good interest rates. This is just, if you like, a snapshot. It's not a deep analytical accounting style process that you're going through. It's a simple habit so that you are checking in on a regular basis, that you're not unconscious about your money anymore. I've spoken to so many women who simply do not know what's in their accounts. And I'll say to them when we start a conversation, can I ask you these questions? How much do you earn? They tend to usually know that answer. How much money do you have in savings? They don't always know that. They don't have those numbers at the top of their head. How much money do you need on a monthly basis? They don't have that number on the top of their head. And it's so easy to do. Now, this applies to the men that I speak to as well. But as women, we need to make sure that we're not leaving ourselves vulnerable. In the old days, I used to save every credit card receipt and cross-check it against my printed statement. Did you used to do that? Do you still do it? So I asked you if you were a credit card checker before, in that you kept that spreadsheet. Now, are you an expense checker? So leave me a comment in the chat and tell me, are you an expense checker? And there'll be a great whoop for anybody who is both a credit card checker and an expense checker. Well done, you. You're probably well on the way to being a lioness. So we want to be checkers, we don't want to be assumers. Now, the next thing I want to do is make sure that you're aware of your bills coming up. So while you're in that account, you're just going to think to yourself, and I do this on a regular basis. I'll look at what the date is, say it's the 14th, and I will go back to last month and I'll just think to myself, what came in after the 14th of the month? What is likely to come into my account as a direct debit? And even though I know I've set it up, I still do this as a habit. I will add up all the payments due to come in after the 14th, and I will look at my account and make sure that I've got sufficient in there. And what I also do is I've got to the stage, because I've been doing it for nearly 20 years now, is we have a reserve in there as well. So it's not, for example, that I need 4 grand a month and I've only got 4 grand in the account. If I need 4 grand in a month, I've probably got £1,000 sitting in there or £2,000 sitting in there. Yes, it's not earning the best interest rate, but it's my cushion in case anything sneaky comes along. I feel like I have accounted for everything, but you just never know. So I just wanted to have that buffer there. And then what I want you to do is, while you're checking your account, look at what's left in your main wages account. Think about how many days are left in the month. And do you have enough money to cover all of the fun that you had planned? If, for example, you're still buying coffees or your lunches at work, then do you have enough money in there? Now, if you do and you have money left over, you might want to top up the secure and the investment pots. And if you don't, then maybe what you have to say to yourself is, oh no, I'm going to have to cut back on coffee, or for the rest of the month, I'm going to take sandwiches to work with me and not do it. Now, some money experts will have you putting cash in jars or in envelopes to account for this. And we know, A, that's not safe. B, it's not sensible. You're losing interest. And basically, month by month, that money that you've got sitting in a jar that is supposed to be helping you manage your money is actually being eaten by inflation in front of your very eyes. So that's not a good plan. Now let's do a last little exercise here where I want you to check in with yourself. How do you feel about your spending and your commitment level to your goals? Do you still remember why they're important? Could you even create one more small money goal this week that would help you speed up your journey to financial confidence and security? So, the 3 exercises: checking your accounts, making sure that you have sufficient money for the bills, and making sure that you have sufficient money to cover the fund that you've got planned for the rest of the month. And then making sure that you check in about how you're feeling about this, because that's really important. If you're not feeling comfortable or confident, go back to the workbook, work through those exercises again. Remember your whys, remember your motivation. And maybe what you can do with one small goal is start saving an extra 20% a month. Maybe you can cut down on some non-essential spending that you had. This money date is about awareness. It's not about perfection. It's about awareness rather than accountancy. It's to help you feel more engaged with your money, more confident, and so you will become less stressed. So set yourself a calendar reminder now, and then you can maybe sit with a cup of coffee on a Sunday morning or on a Friday or a Wednesday night with a glass of wine and negotiate your accounts confidently, because your future self is going to thank you. And then really the last piece I want to sort of tackle here is the guilt that can come out of this. A lot of women struggle with guilt, spending money on yourself, thinking that you shouldn't, or thinking that you should be saving more, earning more, investing more. It's not helpful. It's not healthy. And we're taught to feel guilty because we're taught to be caretakers, not wealth builders. We hear phrases like, don't be greedy. You don't need to worry about money. It's selfish to spend money on yourself. And then, of course, we start to feel irresponsible, feel like we're not doing enough, feel guilty for having too much. You might be in a family situation where you're doing well and you don't feel comfortable when you're around family members who don't have the same values around money for you. And I want to say to you that you deserve financial power, you deserve security, choice, and freedom. And so instead of feeling guilty, we want to change the way that you feel about money and approach money so that we can move beyond that. It's time to break free from that historic toxic cycle where housekeeping was handed to the little woman by their earning husbands. We're not just stuck in houses anymore. We've got our own careers and our own lives, and we don't need to deal with that anymore. Money isn't good or bad, it is simply a tool, and you can align it with your values so that you can choose whether you want to make a spending purchase or not. You can choose to save without fear. So, one of the first things that's going to help you with guilt-free spending is allocating your money to the pots. Your enough money is your rent and your mortgage. Well, of course, there's no guilt there. That's non-negotiable. Then you've got your investment pot. This is your future security. Of course, that's non-negotiable and nothing to be guilty about. You've also got your resilience pot, and that's about making sure that you're not stressed. So there's no question that that's a good idea, not a good idea. And so really, it then comes down to your spending. And what I want you to do is to get conscious with your spending so that you can think to yourself, is this really what I want to be spending on? Rather than saying to yourself, I shouldn't spend money on this because. So what you're going to start to do is ask yourself, I'm about to make a purchase. And listen, you don't have to do this with every £3 cup of coffee if you know that you can afford it. This is probably for slightly bigger purchases, maybe anything over 40 or £50, but you can do it all the way through as well. Does this purchase align with my goals and my values? Am I going to make this purchase consciously? And of course, probably the first thing you should ask yourself is, can I afford it? Because actually being financially stressed isn't helpful to you. So what I want you to think about is something called Hell Yes, and that's your way to get stress-free. You're going to think to yourself, does this purchase make me happy? Does it align with my values? And if the answer is hell yes, and you can afford it, then it is part of your guilt-free spending. Now, I know I've spoken about debt and maybe that doesn't apply to you, but what I wanted to do is make sure that we do have that conversation because we don't talk about it enough. It's considered bad. It's almost a dirty word, and there's so much shame associated with being in debt. Goodness, when I just had that £2,000 worth of debt, I was mortified. I didn't tell my parents. I took it upon myself to save and save and save and save because I'm sure my parents would have helped me pay my friend back. But that wasn't the point. I felt bad. And that's not healthy and that's not helpful. I want you to understand that debt can be overturned. You can reclaim your power. You can start talking about money. And maybe one day you're going to meet a woman who needs your help. Your understanding and compassion could be a family member, could be a work colleague or a friend that you've not spoken to about this. And maybe you can share this video with them or share the tips from this to help them reclaim their financial power. So, in this, I have, in a way, told you two things. I have both shared with you the Lioness Saving System and talked about automation. And just to finish off about automation, there are plenty of apps out there that you can use, but I want you to do this yourself. I talked about setting up a direct debit, and that's what I want you to do. I want you to go into your account. I want you to set up a direct debit, almost manually set up the automation, because I want you to be conscious about this. I want you to be physically involved with this. It's too easy to let the apps do it for you. And of course, there's a caveat here. I am the least automated person, and I do have control issues. So that's probably back here, influencing the way that I'm speaking to you. But I prefer to know where my money is. I prefer to make the decision that this amount of money is going to leave my account on this day and move over there. And that's what I want you to do. So the Lioness system requires a series of bank accounts for you. First off, you're going to have your current account that your wages come into. In that same bank, you're going to set up a second account, which is going to be where your essential direct debits go, your enough money. And in there, I would also set up a third bank account, which is called your planned spending. That's the birthday money, Christmases, holidays, etc. So one bank with three accounts. And what happens is the wages come into your current account, 70% immediately goes into enough, 5% comes down to planned. Then you're going to have a second bank in which you're going to have two accounts. One is your secure pot, where you're going to build up that 6 months of enough money so that you've got that resilience. And the other one is going to be your investment, your long-term investment in the future. In your current account, you're going to set up two more direct debits, and these two are going to come out to your two new accounts. You're going to set up a direct debit for initially 15% to your secure pot and 5% to your savings pot. As soon as your secure pot achieves that full 6 months worth of money, that direct debit will come down to your investment pot. And this is where I would mention Raisin Bank. It's a bank that I use, not so much because I particularly want to go to the banks and the bank accounts that they offer. You can, that's your choice. But more because it's set up in a way that I can really understand the interest rates easily. So what I would suggest is that you have a look at where you can get the best rate of interest. And that's really important for this second bank that you choose. The second bank has got to be offering you a good rate of investment for both your 6 months money, which you really want to be on a 1 to 3 month notice period, if you remember, and your investment pot, which really you can be putting away for 6 to 12 months. And as that money accumulates, you'll eventually put it into tax-free ISAs. So number one bank account is really about the money that's going to be spent. Number two bank account is really about the money that is going to be saved. You'll check on that quarterly, make sure that it's performing, and you're going to check on your current account, the enough account, and your planned spendings to make sure that there is nothing unusual coming out of those accounts that you can't account for. And you'll do the same with your credit cards. Okay, let's get on to the next chapter, which is really about resilience. So let's really nail this. This is about automating your spending and building a system that runs itself, because if I make it too complicated for you, you're just going to get overwhelmed and not do it. So although we've got the pots, and that might have looked maybe a little overwhelming because it was new in that last chapter, I introduced you to the saving system. I showed you how it works, because the truth is willpower alone is not going to make you financially free. Money should bring you joy, not stress. And if you set up systems so that your essential pot and your savings and your investments and your fund money all just flow effortlessly. There'll be no guilt and no worry. I want you to do this yourself, to be physically involved in the process, to help retrain your mind to make spending and saving and how you handle your finances a conscious process. Let me be clear, handing everything over to AI won't make you financially free. The financial system wants you to set it and forget it so that you stay a passive player with your own money. They want you to hand over all your power to AI and effectively stay a slave, because if you're not making the decisions, that's what you are. Once you know how to do this yourself, then you can go on and choose some automation where it will actually help you. But quite frankly, a straightforward direct debit that you can set up in your online banking is still automation. I want you to build intentional automation where you set up the systems, you control, you train yourself, and then maybe automation can come in on the back end afterwards. Should you clear your debt first? Now, I've already said to you, I'm not a financial advisor, but what I am going to say to you is my point of view is not always. One of the biggest myths is if you pay off your debt, you can then save. I don't think it works that way around. If you think about your head, I've got all this debt, whether it's loans or mortgages, everything like that. And you're thinking, I have to clear that before I can save. That's going to take a long time. What's one of the lessons that we already learned? Time in the market counts. You need to be saving, if not yesterday, today. Well, if you're busy paying off all that debt, you're going to delay when you can start saving again. But if you then start clearing your debt and you've no savings and an emergency happens, where are you going to turn? Right back to debt again. So you can see how it's a vicious circle that keeps you in place. And if I was a conspiracy theorist, I think that that was the point. They want us to turn back to credit so that you're stuck in that same cycle. So what if we did this? And this is why I've set up the Lioness system this way round. You build a small security pot first, because cash savings will give you confidence. Cash savings is your security when anything happens. Simultaneously, you are going to be paying down your debt because you'll have your credit card sheet, you'll have lined your credit cards up, you'll have moved them to 0%, spread that fee out over 2 years, and then you are going to be paying down that debt using my version of the snowball method, which will speed it up. You can do both at the same time. And I want you to prioritize getting those savings in your head so that you do both. Because if you just think, I'm going to clear the debt, you absolutely won't think about saving. And we did go in deeper into the whole debt reduction strategies in the last chapter. And what I want you to remember in this chapter is that cash gives you power. Now, debt isn't always the enemy. There are things like good debt and bad debt, and good debt is where you invest with that money into something that makes you a return. So, for example, I borrow, I take on debt, I invest that into my properties. That gives me a return. That means I can pay the debt back and have a profit. That's good debt. But debt where you are incurring interest, where you bought things that you frankly couldn't afford, is bad debt. But it doesn't have to become the enemy. Only enemy that we have is high interest, unmanaged debt, and that, quite frankly, is deadly. But you know that already, don't you? Where most people will fail with any form of financial planning is their reliance on willpower, because willpower gradually fades. The further you get away from this video, the more my voice will fade. I hope it doesn't, because I hope that you will have the workbook and you will continuously work on this. It's certainly going to take you, I would say, 30 days to 6 months to get through that workbook if you do it properly, depending on the situation that you're in now. And what happens if life happens, or you suddenly decide you want to treat yourself, it will be so easy for all those savings and all those old habits to come back again, which is why I started with the mindset. We're going to remove that mental load so that you don't have to remember to save or to pay the bills. It's just going to happen. But that doesn't have to mean that you're going to be miserable about it. You can start asking this wonderful question. I want to buy something. Does this purchase bring me happiness and align with my values? Bit of a gobbledygook mouthful, but important to think. So I'm going to buy this thing. Maybe it's a pair of glasses. Is this going to make me happy? Well, yes, because then I'm going to be able to see. So that would make me happy. Does it align with my value? Quite frankly, I have lots of pairs of glasses, as you can see, and there's another two sitting in the kitchen and there's one in my bedroom. So I'm a bit of a maniac for just keeping buying glasses because I like them around the place so that I can just pick them up. But these days I tend to keep one set on my face all the time, and so they've become this redundancy. So is that aligning with my values? Quite frankly, no. I don't need all these extra glasses. It's not important to me. One pair would be sufficient. And so if I then went into the shop and I saw another pair of glasses, would it make me happy? Actually, I don't think it would. So you see how you can start to almost have a conversation with yourself and change your mind about buying something because it's so easy to spend money. Is it going to make you happy? And does it align with your values? And I should say there, maybe even your values and your goals. Because at the end of this, if your goal is to reverse your finances into a position where you're in control, you're confident, and you've cleared any debt that you might have been carrying, and you've built up all these pots that I've talked about, so your financial future is secure, is spending that money actually leading towards your future financial security. And if it isn't, and it's only a temporary happiness, maybe you'll think about it twice. No judgment. It's just because we are so used to unconsciously spending, buying things just because, without even thinking about, could that money be used somewhere else better? Do I even have the money to do it? So here's what I want you to do. It's a more friendly version of that. Does this purchase make me happy and align with my goals and values? It's the hell yes test. So before making any purchase, I would say to yourself, will this bring me happiness? And if it's a hell yes, or will I regret it? No, then you make that decision. So you don't even have to do it out loud. I'm going to buy those glasses. Will this bring me lasting happiness? Hell yes. Don't think I'd say that. So actually, it's a no by default. So then I won't buy them. And when you get to a hell yes, that actually this is going to bring me lasting happiness and align with my values and my goals, then you can buy it without guilt because you know that you've got the money saved up to do this. And if the answer was no, and you were thinking of spending the money, you could then ask yourself the question, would I rather invest this money? And if it isn't, maybe that's an answer to whether you go ahead. So for example, if you're going to spend £50 going out with your partner and creating beautiful memories, having a meal or going to a concert, is it worth it? I would think so. But what about spending £50 on another impulse purchase? I had a problem, and I can admit this. I don't think they've got necklaces anonymous or shoes anonymous, but they probably should. I had a problem buying necklaces and buying shoes. Would another £50 on a pair of shoes make me happy? Would they just sit in my wardrobe with all the other shoes that I have sitting in boxes? Probably. And therefore, could I do something better with that money? Absolutely, I could. When you spend intentionally, you can remove the guilt because you're in control. And that's real financial freedom. It's not about deprivation. It's about spending in a way that makes your life wealthier, more full, more complete, because you're not adding to debt. What is your weakness? Would that money be better off building up that secure fund, starting your savings fund, even adding more money to the planned activities that you want for this year? So here's your action step when you've finished watching this video. Schedule some time this evening to log into your bank and start setting up these direct debits. Now, you might not be in a position where you know exactly what the amounts are until you've gone through the income and expenses prioritization sheet, but you can start the process. And maybe your first place is to actually look at whether you've even got that one account where all the direct debits come out. Separating your wages from your monthly direct debits is a massive first step for some people. Then one for security, one for investments, one for planned activities. Automation isn't going to be about giving up control. It's about building a system that works for you. And I know that you've got this. Another chapter coming up. This one is on resilience. And we know that even with the best plan, life can throw us curveballs, unexpected expenses, job losses, maybe setbacks. And here's the thing. Wealth isn't just about how much money you make. It's about how you can bounce back. And that's what we're going to look at in the next chapter, all about resilience. And I'm going to show you how to build it so that no matter what happens, you stay in control. Now, we know that if you don't have financial resilience, those moments of unexpected life events can send you into panic mode. And here's the truth. When you're financially prepared for life's curveballs, they don't knock you down. You can handle them, you adapt, you thrive. And that's what we're building here, that lioness mindset, because resilience is the key to happiness. And this isn't just about making more money exactly. It's about making the money you have now work harder for you to prepare you for your next decision, your next adventure. It's about knowing deep in your bones that whatever happens, you've got this. Most financial courses talk about growing wealth, but I believe first what we need to be talking about is protecting it. There's no point growing more if what you've got is sliding down the plug hole. Financial resilience is your superpower. That's what stops you losing money. Losing money through not having your savings in the right account, not moving from savings to investment, and maybe carrying debt where you're paying high interest payments. The fact is that financial stress is one of the biggest causes of anxiety, relationship breakdown, and even just lost opportunities while your head is full of financial stress. And that's not what we want. When you have the financial cushion that I'm helping you build, everything feels more comfortable. Everything feels easy. When you don't have that financial cushion, everything is urgent. And then you start making decisions from a place of fear, whether it's staying in a job you hate or putting up with a toxic relationship, or just avoiding your finances altogether, not opening those letters, not paying attention to your bank accounts. When you build resilience, you move from a survival mode to a thrive mode. And that's what I want to do here. I want to empower real women like you with real financial resilience. And that's going to lead us to a stress-free and wealthy life. Let me just share a few stories with you of women that I've spoken to over the last few years. Let me tell you about Ali. She went through a divorce quite late in life once her children had left home. She was then a woman in her late 50s, early 60s, and she felt like she was starting from zero. We had a phone call and booked a strategy session, and then I helped her rethink about her money. She built that resilience fund. She started smart money habits. She built her financial independence again on her own terms. And now she's loving life again. She's a single woman with a brand new home, a job that she enjoys, And she knows that she has a pot of money that will cushion her through into her later years. Gina was sort of only in her 30s when she lost her job all of a sudden. But because she had a 6-month security pot already, she didn't panic. We had a conversation and she realized that what she wanted to do was go traveling for a couple of months and then come back. And instead of taking the first job that she found, she knew that she could take her time to level up, get a job that she actually enjoyed. And that's what she did. And then when I was speaking to Charlene, she finally, and I have to say it took ages, finally admitted that she was drowning in debt. And it took so long because, like so many people, she was struggling with the embarrassment. But as we spoke and I explained to her that method of paying back your credit cards, it started to shift her mindset so she could see a way out of the situation she was in. She applied those strategies, the strategies that I've shared here in this course, and she has cleared all of her high interest loans, and she is now ready to start investing. And she's done this within a year, not because she's got lots of money, but because she's got that mindset now. The difference for these women is that they listened to the suggestions I've been making in the course. They followed the exercises that I have shared with you in the workbook because they are tried and tested methods. They took action and they built specifically their financial resilience, and now they have that long-term financial security. Now it's your turn. Whatever position you're in, build the financial resilience, get that secure pot of 6 months' money, and then you're going to be in a position where you will have long-term financial security. So let's talk about a few habits. I already gave you one habit before where I want you to do that money checking on a weekly and quarterly basis. Daily habits are important, apart from the fact that we started right at the beginning with retraining your mind and helping you have more positive and supportive thoughts. Building wealth isn't just about luck. It is about these daily habits. It's about these small decisions. And it's also about who you surround yourself with, which is why I'm asking you to engage in the community chat, because that's how you're going to feel supported while watching this video. Let's talk about affirmations. You may have come across these before and you may think of them as namby-pamby woo-woo stuff, but actually reciting a statement, even if it is an aspirational statement rather than a fact, it doesn't know that I feel like I'm 30 is any different to I am wearing a green cardigan. It's a set of statements that have come out of your mouth. If you say them enough, you can fool your mind into believing what you have said, because our minds can't tell the difference between reality and imagination. And quite frankly, that's how we get sucked into movies, into books, and of course nowadays into social media. What I want you to do, and this will be hard if you're cleaning your teeth to say it out loud, so you can do it in your mind. As you brush your teeth or apply your makeup, just look in the mirror. And this is quite important, to look in the mirror, to look in your own eyes and say, I am in control of my finances. That statement is true if you're doing all of the activities I have suggested to you in this course and the playbook. And I then want you to add a second sentence to this. I am building wealth on my terms. You're going to say in your mind every morning as you clean your teeth. And if you clean your teeth for a good while, then maybe you're going to have to say this a couple of times in your head. I'm in control of my finances and I'm building wealth on my terms. As you move through the workbook and as you move through the course, you're going to be able to change those sentences so that they become even more powerful statements of intent to help you keep your focus front and center of your mind. Personally, I do this at least 3 times a day. I would do this in the morning while I'm cleaning my teeth. I would do it in the middle of the day as I take a break and get a coffee maybe. And I would do it at some point later in the day, maybe in my journey home in the car or the train, or just before I went to bed. So you can even set yourself alarms to remind yourself to do this. As you grow in confidence, what you can do is start to change these affirmations so that they align with your financial goals, or maybe even a wider life goal. But work with this sentence first. And if you feel maybe that wealth isn't a word that aligns with you, you can change it so you're saying, I am building my future financial security on my terms, or I am growing my resilience pot on my terms. Some phrase. Don't let the words that I'm sharing with you stop you from doing this activity. Use the playbook and you're easily going to be able to come up with a sentence that aligns with your values. The second thing I want you to do, and this is truly a game changer, is to take your phone and to set an alarm for 3:33. I have one set. I've had to stop recording at times because the alarm keeps going off. Now, what you do in your alarm is you name it and you give it a name. And I have used the sentence, why am I so successful? So when the alarm goes off at 3:33 in the afternoon, I get this message as I open my phone to turn off the alarm, and it asks me the question, why am I so successful? And I have to answer it. And I would tell you, more than 9 times out of 10, I am doing something at that moment that is contributing towards the goals that I have set myself. It could be something as simple when we're on holiday as I am relaxing. So why am I so successful? Because I have been able to plan and take this holiday. Equally, when it's been ringing while I'm trying to record this video for you, why am I so successful? Because I have decided that I finally want to get all this material out to you, and I am recording it and creating the workbook for you. It might be that I'm about to speak with a client. Last week, the alarm rang when I was out with 2 clients and all 3 of our phones went off. I have had this on my phone since 2012, every day. Why? Because it is so important to remind yourself on a daily basis that you are doing what you have set out to achieve. 3:33 is an unusual number. My hope is, ever since I did this in 2012, that I will be on a train one day and at 3:33 my alarm will ring, and somewhere down the carriage somebody else's phone will ring, and we will know, because the alarm has gone off at 3:33, that it can only be this alarm. And we'll lean forward and we'll look at one another and we'll smile knowingly, knowing that we are people taking control of our lives. The other reason, more practical for 3:33, is that if you're struggling to answer the question why you've been successful, you've still got the rest of the day. Perfect. This is why it's so powerful, so cleverly, that's me being a bit arrogant there, so carefully constructed. We've done setting off your affirmations, which is first thing in the morning, getting your mind thinking in the right way. We're then midway through the day and we're checking whether you are focused on your goals. The last thing to do every evening is to go through a gratitude exercise, to be grateful for what you have, because wealth starts to manifest in your life when you really appreciate what you already have. It is all part of that mindset shift. I remember speaking to a coach back in 2008, moaning about how I had so much to do, to tidy the house, to mow the lawn. And they powerfully explained the difference between gratitude and gaps. Gaps are what you moan about. You don't have enough. Yes, you do, because I already proved that to you. The gap is, my house has a mess. But the gratitude is, I have a house to be messy. I have stuff that's making a mess. I don't have enough time. That's the gap. The truth is that you're not focused. So there's an exercise in the playbook right now to get you to think about things that you are grateful for. Now, I do this exercise night and morning. So I do this before my affirmations. So every morning before I get out of bed, before my feet hit the floor, before that day starts, and last thing at night before I go to sleep, I think of 3 things that I'm grateful for. This is good fun to share with the family. Sometimes we'll do it based on on the alphabet. What are 3 things beginning with A that you're grateful for, or that type of stuff? So you can make a game out of it, particularly with the kids. It's such a wonderful exercise in a world that is trying to get us to be something that we're not, to be grateful for what we are. And this was a massive wake up call for me. This idea of the gaps and to reshift my focus to the gratitude. I hope it'll be a massive shift in your thinking too. Please do check out the exercise in the playbook. And I hope what you can see is that I'm constantly building on the sections that have come before, getting you to build this powerful framework within which you can grow your confidence, expand your knowledge, your understanding, and ultimately master your own financial security. And we know why this is important, because shifting your thinking from a very basic level of thought and survival drama mode is not helpful. We've got to get out of that level of thinking. But everything in society, if you look at the programs that are on the television, how many people watch Coronation Street or EastEnders? That sort of drama based really quite closely on mimicking life. Although, quite frankly, if what happened in EastEnders happened in a village near you, you'd be looking to move. But that sort of drama is designed to keep you in a specific frame of mind. And what we want to do is be able to be in control of our own thoughts. Do you remember Maslow's hierarchy of needs? Maybe you did this at school. Let me just tell you about Maslow and how his hierarchy of needs links in with everything that I am telling you about. So in 1954, Maslow, an American psychologist, was thinking about human motivation, and he started to think of our motivation as drivers, and he then grouped them into 5 levels of need. That if you do not complete the base level of need, you cannot move up to the next level of motivation. And you can see that all the way back into evolution. So back in the caveman days, when we were only focused on survival, there was literally no time for higher thinking and wondering what you were grateful for. It was all about get food, get food, eat food, be safe, be warm, have a roof over our heads. And that's why Maslow created his first level of needs as food, water. This is our primal instincts. So the theory is that if you are able to fulfill your needs in this hierarchical order, then you can move your way up through levels of thinking, if you like. Your focus changes. But if you don't have a home or a safe place, you can't function on any level. And then the second level is about safety and control, predictability, if you like. But this can also happen for some women in relationships. You might feel safe at home. You might not feel safe at work. You might feel safer at work and not feel so safe or in control or comfortable at home. And this messes with your mind. The next thing that we will start to focus our minds on, because we've met those base level of needs, is love and belonging. Because tribes provide protection, family groups provide love. You can see that in young people forming gangs where they're looking for connection and safety. It can be as simple through football and sports. And of course, now that we're online, we have people who follow us to become fans, and we're looking at how many likes we get. That sense of connection, which we all know online isn't real, is that feeling that we belong somewhere. And of course, that can actually be quite manipulated online. We need to feel the same as other people, but you need to consciously decide where you want to belong. We all know that the AI algorithms on social media will manipulate what you see in your feed. At the moment, I'm doing cooking recipes and sharks, which is fine because I'm quite happy with those. But you've got to think about, what are you getting in your feed? And if you're getting stuff in your feed that you don't like, you either need to go up into the top corner and say, don't show me these adverts, don't show me this, don't show me that, so that you can take over the control of your own feed and start to search for things that are more empowering for you. Don't let them control your thoughts by controlling the information that you see. That's why picking your tribe is even more important. That's why engaging in the chat on the side is really important. Being part of a community to support you to achieve what you want. And that brings us, in a sense, to surrounding yourself with the right support. They do say that you are the average of the 5 people you spend most of your time with. I think that could be said for your mindset as well. Those people that avoid money conversations, that feel stuck, that believe that money is hard, guess what? They hang around with people that have those same thoughts. They must do. Because if they were hanging around with people that have money conversations that are positive with money, how can they possibly avoid the conversation and feel stuck? And that's why one of the other things that I have in my business world is something called the Wealthy Life Community, where I have grouped together all of my resources and people that want to have those sorts of conversations. So, sticking to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, we're now moving into a more modern human. So we're at level 4, and this is where he starts talking about self-esteem, self-worth, respect. And this is crucial. You can see that again with young people, and especially young men who are struggling with self-esteem. And the converse of this is that you can see rising suicide rates, mental health issues, but are caused by not being around a group that lifts you, but by being in social media world that drags you down, that makes you not feel worthy. So let me ask you, do you feel worthy? Do you feel accomplished? I've put a confidence exercise in the playbook, and there are some questions that you can fill in to both help you reframe gaps into gratitude, but also to prove to yourself that you are confident, accomplished, and worthy. And the final level of Maslow's hierarchy of needs is self-actualization. This is really what I believe that we're all striving for. It's that idea that you can have the life that you want for yourself. It's at this level that the things that you think about are massive, life-changing, world-changing events. I've always been a little conspiratorial thinking at times, and I love history. So I believe if you look at history, you can see that there's always been some higher level of network of individuals, whether it was kings and nobility or the military, that shaped the world and by definition our lives. We can't do anything about that, but we can see through the illusions that they use to manipulate us. I'm probably going to get cancelled and you'll never see this video anyway. But think for a minute about Amazon and how it's shaped our lives. The impact on the high street. There are benefits, of course, to smaller businesses that can now sell globally without being limited with overheads of a shop front. So there are good reasons, but there are also less good benefits of everything that comes along. What looked to connect us in terms of technology also has a dark side. And what you really need to do is understand that all social media is about is selling you something, selling you the idea of a life you don't have or a specific product or service. And you need to be able to see that so that you can make informed and conscious decisions about how you spend your money. Don't give up your hours of your life, because that's what you're doing. You've given time to earn money, and then you're going to give your money away unconsciously. You're giving them time, hours of your life that you could spend with family, with friends, doing things that will bring you more joy. And that brings me full circle to why I wanted to create this course, the ultimate guide to money and investing. So smart women like you could start to see through the illusion and make more and better informed decisions about your money, your savings, and ultimately your financial futures, because you deserve more. We are the glue that holds society together. They say behind every powerful man is a powerful woman. Well, behind this amazing world is amazing us, amazing women. The goal here is to get clarity about why this is so important. Do you understand yet? Let me know in the comments about how you feel about all that you've heard? Are you clear on why we need to be doing this? Do you feel that you can get back into control over your money? Does it make sense what I've been describing about Maslow's hierarchy of needs? You need to learn to take control of your money and make it work for you, giving you that all important level 2 security, safety, control, even predictability, while still having some fun. And I want you to feel more confident, which is level 4 thinking, self-esteem, talking about money to others, both to learn and to listen, to understand and to share. Share all that you've learnt on this course with your sisters, with your daughters, even with your mother's friends and work colleagues. Because the more confident and empowered we as women become about our futures, the better the future will be. Because it's only when we feel confident and empowered that we can grow into our full potential, to become self-fulfilled, to change the world, to change our worlds and how we experience it, and in part change the world for the others that are part of our tribes, confidently, comfortably, with a touch of exploration and growth, and above all, happily, to have joy and peace rather than stress, misery, and worries. Isn't that what we all want? And I just want to remind you that you are the CEO of your wealth. This is your business. You are the chief officer here. The course isn't just about money. It's about empowering you to become more confident and more financially free and an enlightened and happy woman, which is what you deserve to be. Maybe you are already enlightened and happy, but also confident and financially free is the icing on the cake. I'd like you to take one moment now and write down in the comments one action that you're going to take this week to build your financial resilience, and through that, your financial confidence. Maybe you're going to set up that savings pot, or maybe you're going to set up the secure resilience pot. Maybe you're going to have a money conversation with a friend or a family member. Share in the comments. Come on, we're nearly there. And I really need you to stay committed to this process, because here's the truth. You don't have to be fearless. You just have to take one step towards becoming more financially prepared. And before you know it, you'll have that 6 months security pot there, earning a higher rate of interest in your savings account. All you've got to do is take action. This is where it all comes together. This is going to be the last chapter coming up, and it's about stepping fully into this new financial identity that you have. It's not just about saving, budgeting, and investing. It's about creating a life where money is no longer a source of stress, but a tool for freedom. And that's what we're going to do in a minute. So here we are at the final section, and well done on making it this far. I know it's been a lot of information to take in. As I've said to you, you've got the workbook to support you through this. Now, what we want to be doing is making sure that we set you up to take action and basically transform your life so that it is more secure and you are more confident about your finances. Now, for all that I've shared with you, knowledge without action is completely useless. And up until now, I've been talking to you about how to take control of your finances. And what I want to do is take us forward a level now, so there's something for you to build on as this video comes to an end. Because it's not, as I said to you before, it's not just about money. It's about your future. It's about your financial success, your financial security for the long term, and your immediate confidence. So I'm going to wrap this up with some clear, concrete steps. And I'm also going to make sure that you don't leave this course without knowing what to do and being prepared to do it and commit to it. So maybe it's time to pop over the side in the chat and say, yes, I'm committed again, so that I know that you've got this far. And then what I want to do is take us beyond that point where I've been talking about simple savings for now, and give you a bit of an overview of what comes next when you have reached sufficient knowledge and confidence that you feel that you're ready to take that next step. So I've been taking you through the framework of Be Smart, BESMART. And what that has been leading to are, if you like, the 5 pillars of financial security, the 5 outcomes. I want you to have more clarity, which is why we were working on your personal mindset, because awareness is the key. You can't see what you can't change. And that's why we started talking about your mindset, your conscious spending, so that every penny has a purpose. Every pound is going to work for you. You've been able to identify some of your financial strengths and maybe some of your financial challenges, some hidden spending habits, maybe. And what you need to do now is build on that knowledge and take it forward. Because ultimately, this is your future we're talking about. I've been through this process and I know that it works. I've been through it myself and I've worked with clients to make this work for them. I've shared with you proven strategies to help you make your spending conscious, reduce debt if you have any, become more resilient if you don't already have a pot of 6 months' money, so that you can cope with the challenges that we as women face, both as mothers and partners, leaders of our households, but also in the workplace and during the course of our careers. A significant part of this course has been devoted to practical steps that you can adopt, and they're all in the playbook for you to be able to go through once you finish watching the video. And just as a reminder, if you haven't already done it, please make sure that you save this video. You might even want to sign up for YouTube Premium, because then you can download the entire course and keep revisiting it whenever you want. But simply saving it will mean that it is here for you to come back to when you need. And actually, why not go one step further and subscribe to my channel, where you're going to be able to find that there are lists of all of the videos that I have ever recorded, the video versions of them, some of them with a few glitches in. But there are plenty of videos that I have been producing over probably the last 15 or more years that you can start tapping into. And I'm going to be uploading more and more material. So subscribing to my channel might be something that you also want to do. Let me know if you're going to subscribe, because that will be awesome. So the second pillar that you are going to come out with is control. And this is the bit where resilience really sits, because resilience is the foundation to your future financial security. And that's why I keep banging on about this 6-month fund. It's a real game changer. It's your breathing space. This is going to give you choices. No more financial panic, feeling trapped, making snap decisions, or worse, getting yourself into debt. I can't emphasize enough the power that you are going to feel when you know that you have enough money in the bank to cover 6 months of your living costs. No matter what happens, you know that you are always going to be able to make a considered decision about what happens in your life moving forward. Whether you end up being made redundant, want to leave work, or anything else in between. When life is smooth and there are no disasters on the horizon, you will have the pot on the side here, that security resilience pot, making you feel strong. And I did discuss the challenge of starting out this process with some outstanding debt. And I hope that you'll agree that that combination of the 0% cards and the breakthrough debt method that I explained to you, which is so much more advanced than just the simple snowball method, will put you in a position where if you do have debt, you can get on top of it. You can feel in charge. You can feel empowered. And that's literally going to give you a boost of energy. You'll be absolutely amazed how you feel when you're not worrying about debt, because you have got a plan in place how to kill it. The third one that we're going to talk about as an outcome is confidence. This is how you are going to step into, if you like, that lioness mindset. Wealth isn't built in a day. You know how to do it now, step by step, paycheck by paycheck, pot by pot. And as you keep coming back to this video and working through that playbook, your confidence is going to increase. First, to be in a position where you ask questions, and you can ask questions in the chat. I'm going to pay attention to the questions and come back and answer them for you. You're going to learn more about money than you've ever learnt before. And then you're going to be in a position where you can act and ask for what you want, whether it's simply more information or maybe more income, or more interest, more ways to feel secure, or more ways to get your money working for you and not against you. The fourth outcome is communication, increased communication. Up until now, you've learned how to make spending decisions that align with what truly matters to you without guilt or anxiety, just confidence in knowing where your money goes and knowing how your money is performing. Communication goes hand in hand with confidence. They are the twins in the middle of those 5 pillars. I was just speaking to a woman who was listening to one of my 1-hour talks more recently, and we were saying this idea of communicating and learning the language and learning about money is not something that women seem to do. And yet men seem to know the money, seem to know how to invest. They have conversations. They must do amongst themselves because we've both sat in the same class. We've both sat in the same schools and we've learnt about maths. And if you were lucky, you might have learnt a little bit about the fact that there is this thing called money. Maybe your parents spoke to you differently. It could be that the fathers are speaking to the sons about money and they're not speaking to the daughters, but someone somewhere in the male world is having conversations. They must be, in order for them to know the stuff that we don't know. So we have to increase our communication amongst ourselves. Confidence is going to encourage you to communicate more, and communicating more will help you feel more confident. Do share this video with your female friends, family, colleagues. Do encourage your employer to invite me in to do a lunchtime talk. Let's bring up money as a conversation that we feel capable and confident to speak about and not uncomfortable when the conversation is having in the room. Don't leave the room where conversations about money and finance and investing are happening. Don't switch off when you hear people talking about property investment, stocks and shares, interest rates. Pay attention to that stuff because that's where the knowledge lies. And with that knowledge, you have power. And with power, you're going to be in a position where you can grow the benefits of the money that you are giving up your time to earn. Time, in a sense, is the building process to long-term financial security. I talked to you about time in the market and compounding effects. It might take you time to build your pots. It might take you time to learn enough that you feel confident. But when you get there, when you've been through that process, you're not just learning for today, you're going to learn for years to come. You're going to be in a position where you can take action, and this will be something that is filling you with confidence. And although you're going to master automation, which is what I've asked you to do, you're not outsourcing your power. You are in control yourself. And we are going to start talking about investing smartly, whether that's first off, checking and improving your savings rates. A lot of the conversations I've had just over this last 2 weeks has been about pensions. Do you know if you have a pension? Do you know what your pension entitlement will be, both from your company and from the government? Do you have maybe many little pensions lying around that you don't know what to do with? Improving your knowledge about your savings and your pensions is really important. And then you're going to be in a position where you feel more confident to maybe start investing in shares or even property down the line. And I will start putting up more videos to help you with that as well. The idea here is to build resilience so that you have that breathing space, time to plan, time to learn, time to manage, and eventually let go of all your financial stress. You're going to be in a position that is different from every other woman on this course and frankly, every woman on the planet, based on so many factors. Your money archetype, for one, your habits, your attitude towards risk, and of course, your actual financial starting point. So this isn't about competition. It's so easy to start going, oh, well, I'm not going to get involved because that person has said that they do check their credit cards. No matter whether you're on step one, thinking about improving your interest rates on your savings, or thinking about how you can start investing now you've been through this process. We are all in this together. And if we don't start coming together and supporting one another, every lioness is supported by her other lionesses in her pride. And that's what we need to be doing with one another, supporting one another in a way that often when you watch TV programs, women aren't comfortable doing. We've got to stop tearing one another down and start building one another up. I do want to have just a quick conversation about investing in its purest form, caveated with I am not a financial advisor. And I've purposely toned down the phrasing investing to make it a bit more accessible to all of you. This, after all, is the ultimate guide for women, but it's just the start. And I've been swapping the words investing and saving almost interchangeably to make this more inclusive. And now I want to put in the stretch. Now we've got this far, I think that you are more confident, more knowledgeable. Some of you actually know that you know your stuff, and some of you know a lot more than you did before. So let's have it'll be a laugh if I manage to make this 5 minutes, but we'll give it a go. Let's have a fictional 5 minutes beginner's guide to investing. Okay, so first off, what do we mean by the term investing? So the first thing is that investing literally means to grow one's money. You are invested in. The core premise of investing is the expectation of a positive return in the form of income or price appreciation that makes it worthwhile you taking the risk of investing in this specific, and I'm going to use another word, asset. And these can come in all sorts of forms, from financial schemes, shares, properties, commercial venues, but also intangible assets, which is just crazy, isn't it? Some form of art that is in a fictional crypto world, the madness that we're in. This is something called an NFT, a non-fungible token. So it's all to do with crypto and blockchain, and it's a piece of art or a digital asset of some form. So investing in things can be in real things that you can touch, but also, dare I use the word, pretend things that are up in the cloud. You can already see that there is a huge range of risk there, isn't there? I could buy this calculator and invest in a calculator, and I can touch it and see it and feel it, right the way through to shares, which are intangible, and then the extreme of crypto and these NFTs. Your approach to risk, the amount of money that you have got to invest, and importantly, the amount of money that you could risk losing is really important for you to understand before you go into the world of investing. But if we keep it at the simplest form of thinking about shares, first of all, when I first started talking to you and using the word investing, and we created a pot called Invest, I was simply talking about high interest savings, savings that beat the performance of inflation. That's what we wanted to do. We wanted to make sure that our money wasn't losing money. And I went so far as to mention tax-free ISAs, which is a whole bubble in its own right. Understanding that you have a £20,000 a year allowance. And so many of the women I've already spoken to before, and I'm no expert on this, don't understand in 2024, you could have saved up to £20,000 in a specific tax-free ISA, not paid tax on your interest that you earned. And then when it comes to 2025, you need to go back to that provider and you need to renew that ISA into another ISA. But it doesn't then use up your 2025 allowance. You are allowed to transfer it over, to keep it. It's almost as if that £20,000 then goes into a little locked box that you don't touch, and you pick it up and you put it into the next savings, let's call it a shelf. You put that box on the next shelf, the savings shelf. And then you're going to save up and save up and save up, and you're going to build up your piles of notes on that shelf, and you can only have £20,000 as it stands at the moment that are tax free. When you've got £20,000, you scoop them all up and you put them in a box and you sit them next to the 24 box. Then we get to 2026 and you've got a 24 box and a 25 box, and you need to make sure that you transfer those over and start saving again for 2026. That's the simplest way that I can explain it. And if you're doing a shares ISA, so that you're trying to wrap your shares into a tax-free ISA, then you're going to be in a position where you're going to need to speak to the platform that you get your shares on. When you start to move further away from the simple bank deposit into different assets, then the risk increases. Let's just quickly tackle crypto. So at the moment, any money that you put in a bank account or a building society account, pretty much here or anywhere in the world, is regulated, if you like, by this sort of global institution where all the different banks and all the different countries have agreed how to perform. Back in the old days, this money was secured by literally gold bars that were stored underground. So you've heard of the Federal Reserve. We used to have gold in the UK. That link between pound for gold or dollar for gold has been separated. So every note that you have, if you read it, is a promissory note. I promise you that if I give you this piece of paper, I'm saying that it is backed by gold. That's not there anymore. But then there were a lot of people who got very clever with the internet and realized that what they could do is they could set up their own system, and they created cryptocurrency. Now, this currency is limited to the amount of, let's call them notes again, imaginary notes that there are, units, bitcoins, specific coins. Again, they're only in the cloud. Whereas what we have with our paper money is the bank can do something called quantitative easing and just print more money. And you'll have heard that coming out over the last few years. So when they've created Bitcoin, it is not regulated in the same way. And actually, at the moment in the UK, if you have shares in cryptocurrency and you want to buy a property, you cannot withdraw that money and put it down as a deposit. It is not acceptable money in the UK because fundamentally it's not regulated. So it's your choice whether you go this route. You have been warned, but I certainly think it's something that you need to pay attention to. And if you are interested, learn. There are people out there that will teach you about this. And I wouldn't just go to one person's course. I would go to a number of different courses. So let's just turn to stocks and shares, much more comfortable ground to be back on. This is basically a way that big companies can raise money. We've effectively lent our money to that company, and what they're going to pay us back is in dividends. That's the interest that we're going to get on our money. You only get the dividend if the company is in profit, and it's only going to be in profit if it does well. And if it doesn't do well, you're not going to make any money out of them. There is a difference between holding a share, buying and holding a share, and share trading. Share trading is a completely different thing. You can use experts. And I have to say, this is my approach for everything. I have a financial advisor. I'm always interested in how much time an activity takes me, because the return on my time is almost as important as the return on and the risk to my money. To my mind, getting an expert to decode my attitude towards risk and then create an investment fund where I can invest in shares in a tax efficient vehicle absolutely makes sense. But if you're tech savvy and an observer of the markets, then you can learn how to do it yourself. So all of these things are ways to diversify, but I think it's also a very advanced strategy that is worth you taking advice. First off, let's go straight to number one. Make sure that your savings are earning you the best they can. And then when you feel comfortable, think to yourself, do I want to save in some other diversified form, Or do I want to, for example, invest in the stock market? And then think to yourself, do I want to do it myself or get a financial advisor? And the last thing I want to do here is just come to property. And I'm going to declare straight off, I'm absolutely biased about property. I love maths, I love houses, and I realized some 20 years ago, while I was in social housing and I could not afford my own house at the time, that I could invest in property because the bank would lend me money. Now, none of the other things that I have told you about up until now can you get a bank loan to then invest in those things. But they will lend you money against a house. And you don't have to live in that house. You can buy that house and rent it out to somebody else. So to my mind, a house is still the safest asset. It is a physical thing that I know that we all need. It is something that will appreciate, go up in price in time, and is something that I don't have to spend all my money on. Here are some rules that just go with property. The bank won't lend you money unless the house is actually worth the value that you are paying for it, and that the expected rent that you are going to get will cover the mortgage. So already there, unlike all of the other things that have a degree of risk, you won't get a mortgage unless the house is worth it and the rent is going to cover the mortgage, which is the whole point, because you don't want to be paying the mortgage, you want the tenant to be paying the mortgage. But not only does the tenant pay the mortgage, they also pay sufficient in the rent that they cover the cost of the buildings and contents insurance, they cover the cost of the repairs, they cover the cost of the gas and electrical and all the other certificates you have to have, and they cover the cost of using a letting agent to manage the process. So there you are again. I'm not having to use a lot of my time. Now, people are going to say, what about tenant damage? You can take out insurance against that. I have to manage the tenant. Well, I pay an expert letting agent to handle that for me. They check that they're a decent tenant in the first place, and then they manage them on a day-to-day basis. So I'm not getting phone calls at 10 o'clock at night on a Saturday from a tenant saying that they've locked themselves out. Not my problem. That's what I pay the letting agent for. And I mentioned about the bank. They're going to give me 75% of the purchase price. So instead of using £100,000 of my money to buy a house, I can get £75,000 from the bank. Theoretically, I've skipped over all the other costs, but I could effectively buy 4 properties. The last thing I want to say is the icing on the cake with property is that the value of the asset may increase. We live on a small island, it's bound to increase. And instead of selling, I could theoretically, if I wanted to, remortgage the property, release funds and buy more houses. I don't do that. I want to keep my properties on as low a mortgage as possible, and I will make my money and group it up and get that deposit again out of rents and out of earnings and out of savings rather than remortgaging. But you will see people out there that promote the idea that you buy, you refurbish, you remortgage, you rent, and you go again. And there's a risk attached to that. That is a little bit more risky. If you ever want to talk about property, we can have that whole conversation. The best thing about property is it doesn't stop me traveling, having time off. So I don't know if I've sold you on the idea of property or not yet. I did declare my bias up the front. There are risks. People do get it wrong. So just to round up this piece about investing, you need to assess your attitude towards risk, the financial risks to your savings, the risk posed by the people who might help you, your attitude towards risk. And of course, that'll change with knowledge and confidence and education like this. Even my books on property investing could help you. The podcast, I've got training, of course. The risk to your savings is a maths problem that you can calculate. The risk posed by people and sharks is all about due diligence. So what I want to do is wrap up now and take you through 3 simple steps that I'm going to leave you with as your final activities as part of this course. So step 1, I want you to use the resources that I have produced for you. First off, as I've already said, save this video, revisit it, and then download the playbook. And I'll put the link here for you. This is your roadmap. Get involved and do those exercises. comment in the comment boxes, leave a comment on this video and get involved with the other women that are part of this. And as you work through first the video, then the workbook, come back to the video and revisit lessons, because this isn't a one-time thing. Step 2, become part of the 10% club. Now, most people who started out watching this video, most of the women, will not have reached the end. But you're not most women. And ultimately, what we need is accountability. We need accountability to break through the noise, the old habits. And I guarantee you that 50% of the women that started watching this video haven't reached this point, or didn't remember to save the video, so they're not going to be able to come back to it. So well done you for getting this far. Now, to move from that 50% to the 10% is engaging in the community chat, leaving comments, declaring your intentions, and inspiring others as well, because it's by working together that we can make a difference. It supports us and it supports other women. The psychology of getting involved, the benefits of interacting and being engaged in the process is where you, in a sense, get the extra 10% from. You're part of the 10% doing it, but you get that lift from being psychologically committed and involved in this course. You're not just passively watching it. And I really hope, and I'm sure, that you've already played full out and you've joined in. And of course you have, because you're serious about taking this opportunity and making it work for you. So let me know in the comments at the end of this that you've saved the video and that you are fully involved by posting, "I'm in the 10% club and I'm taking action." I'd love it to see you posting that in there. That would give me a real boost, and brilliant to know that you are maximizing, if you like, the benefits of this course. Drop that comment right now, declare your commitment. And what I'd also say is that in posting that you're taking action, what we mean is that you're going to complete the playbook. You're going to take back control of your life. And maybe one of the other things you might like to do is share a key takeaway from this course. So what have you learned? What new insight have you come up with? What might you do differently? Because it's this level of accountability that breeds success. And then I did say to you, I guaranteed and I absolutely promise you that I have given you everything you need to make a massive difference to how you think and engage with money. I said that this course is all you needed, and that is true. Between the course and the workbook, you can go away now and you can do it all for yourself. But if you know yourself well and you know how busy you are, then maybe the idea of a 30-day challenge is what you need to support you. I want you to see this video as a sign and seize the opportunity to make lasting changes that frankly you've been wanting to make and waiting for so long. So I have created a 30-day challenge. My focus is to encourage you to save, and that's why the price of the 30-day challenge is set at £297. For that, I am going to be in your inbox every day for the next 30 days, encouraging you to work through the exercises, encouraging you to commit, supporting you to get that mindset shift, to understand those strategies and to put them into action. So if you know that you would benefit from that extra support, commit now. Challenge yourself to implement everything that we've covered and join the 30-day challenge. You'll see the link here. It's a real investment in your future. You want to change your financial situation for the better, or you wouldn't have watched all the way through to the end. So click now, stop wasting time, and let's do this. And I will be with you for the next 30 days. So this is your moment. I've shared all the knowledge. I've shared all the strategies. I hope that I've started to increase your confidence so that you can make a difference in your life. But none of that is going to make a difference unless you take action. The future you dream of, the security, the freedom, the power to live your life on your terms is within your reach, only if you step forward and claim it. The workbook is there, but do you have the energy and the time and the commitment to complete all of those exercises? It could be part of a like-minded supportive group of women in a unique community. Be the difference. between success and everything staying the same for you, between life changing for the better and nothing changing, maybe for the next 3, 5, 10 years, until you go, do you know what? I wish I'd finished watching that video. I wish I'd done the playbook. I wish I'd joined the 30-day community challenge. How about making that commitment to yourself, to your future? Start today. Become that financially confident woman you were always meant to be. You have everything you need now to change your financial future, to walk away and feel empowered. Or you can walk away and hope that things will improve. The choice is yours. What's your next move going to be? What's the one action that you're committing to today? Are you 100% committed to your financial security? And if you are, I'll see you on the inside of the 30-day challenge. Thank you so much for watching. I wish you a wealthy life. And as I say, I'll see you on the inside.